What's crackin', nerds? Welcome back to coverage of Spotlight Foundations here in Atlanta, Georgia. It is the SCGCon. We've got many Magic fans and friends here playing
Definitely.
the best game in the world, which, Corey, you and I get to chat about and just, get paid for, which is pretty sweet.
We clearly have the best job in the world as, this tournament's been really awesome. Standard's been great, so a lot of fun here in Atlanta.
Of course, this weekend wouldn't be possible without everybody behind the scenes, as well as our sponsors. So a big thank you to Beckett and Dragon Shield. Whether you're wanting to trade your cards, get them sleeved and slabbed, our friends at Dragon Shield and Beckett have you covered. A big thank you to these legends for sponsoring all SCG cons this year. And don't forget that you can order your Dragon Shield products right now on StarCityGames.com. Talking about cards, Corey, we need cards to get graded and sleeved.
Yeah, we need way cooler cards here to be coming out all the time. And of course, Innistrad Remastered is a set that's coming out here pretty shortly. You can pre-order this now at StarCityGames.com/MTG Innistrad Remastered. I mean, this set was awesome, right? Vampires, werewolves, zombies, all kinds of stuff. Innistrad was actually the set that I took a short break and came back with Innistrad. And yeah, it's a really fun set. I absolutely love it, so make sure to check that out if you're interested. So
the vampires sucked you back in?
I would not. No, I absolutely would not say that.
Well,
but you would.
Yeah, sure would. I love me some vampires and werewolves, so that is going to be a sweet set indeed. There's also Aether Drift coming up. There's plenty of Magic sets coming out this year, and the winner of this tournament, they're just going to have a whole big case of them.
All of them. Getting all of them, 6 boxes each, first place prize at this tournament, and all these SCG events are really incredible this year in 2025.
That's super cool. So a big thank you once again to Beckett and Dragon Shield for sponsoring all of these SCG cons. We hope that we'll see you friends watching on the screen, whichever it may be, at one of these cons in future. So
definitely. Yep.
I know you all want to see Magic. I know you're tired of us yapping already. So we are going to check out the standings before we jump into our feature match. Let's take a look here. Mono white tokens on top of the leaderboard, Corey.
Absolutely. Yep. So we see all 15 players right here are 6-0. Some big names here. You know, we got Joshua Willis, who has done really well at these. Jim Davis.
Woo!
Basically everybody's favorite content creator.
Jimmy D. Go, Ben.
Make sure to drop those Jim Davis emotes in the chat as well. We got a bunch of other great players. We see Isaac Bullwinkle as well. And John Culver, who we just saw take that down. I see, 3 Esper Pixies already? I mean, there was only 75 players out of the 1,500 players that played that deck. Turns out it might be pretty good there, Ailey.
They are on to something with these flappy little pixie friends.
Yeah.
But I will tell you that there is another dark horse in this tournament that we're going to check out pretty soon. We've been trying to figure it out during the ad break, so let's see if we got it right. Our feature match is going to be former world champion Nathan Stoyer up against Ryan Normandin. Now, Nathan is playing Gruul aggro. Pretty stock standard.
Oh, no, I'm just kidding. Gruul is, of course, awesome, but it is nowhere near as cool as this next deck list that we're going to see. We got to check this out in person for sure.
We sure do. So let's jump into the match, and we'll give you a bit of a. We'll try and talk you through this deck as Ryan expertly pilots it. So players are ready to rock and roll. Let's get this underway. So from what we have determined, this Azorius Reanimator list is attempting to get Omniscience out on turn 4 using Abuelo's Awakening, and then do some dumb stuff with it.
Yeah, so, this is not necessarily a Reanimator deck. It is reanimating Omniscience, which I guess it turns into a creature. So, we do have that going for it. And then it is a combo deck. This has been just winning a few tournaments as of recently, very recently.
Yep.
And it's an incredible deck. I can't wait to see it in action.
Yep. As far as Dispersal, dealing with the little mouse on the board, so no counter on there from the talent for Nathan Stoyer. There's Chart a Course. And using the second line of text there, being able to discard something. Trying to get Omniscience in the bin, and we have it there already. So if turn 4 comes around, and if we have that Abuelo's Awakening, Ryan is going to show us exactly what this deck wants to do.
Yep, absolutely. So being able to return it and then cast Invasion to get a card outside of your library, getting Seasons of Weaving, being able to bounce the invasion while simultaneously making a copy of Omniscience, make infinite 1/1s there, and then kind of pass the turn and think it's going to be enough. That's the gist I'm getting here, so we'll see if we're right on this one. Really cool deck, though. Really spicy.
It's sweet. And sitting at 5-1 too, so
Yeah.
it's definitely something that players weren't prepared for this weekend. As we get things cooking here. Once again, Nathan SCGATL is Critters down on the board, Ember Heart Challenger, and the Heartfire Hero swinging in for as much damage as they can muster. Down to 17 goes Ryan. Land 3, looking for land number 4 here.
Yeah, and a great start here for Nathan. You know, there is a solid, the Dispersal is a great card to break serve a little bit here from this blue-white deck, but kind of the ideal start from Nathan with the ideal deck so far.
Yeah, Gruul Aggro has been putting up some numbers lately, and, if you can just execute your game plan, if the top of the deck plays nice with you, you're going to have a great time with the list.
Absolutely. But meanwhile, like you said, at 5-1 with this really cool new spicy deck that is definitely significantly in the other category.
Oh, definitely.
You get a lot of equity from these style of decks at a closed deckless tournament like Day 1 is. Day 2 might be a different story here from Ryan, but yeah, Day 1 looking very nice here with this really cool deck.
More damage now. Coming on in. Down to 11 goes Ryan Normandan. And now we're going to see Moment of Truth. Is this the moment that we have been waiting for? We see 2 lands there. One will go to the bin, one goes to the bottom, and one to hand.
Yep, and that is kind of, the trick that we've seen from Oculus decks, trying to put an Oculus in the yard. Here's land 4, so this is supposed to be the time.
Ooh.
And I don't think there's much Nathan can do about the combo if we're all wrapped up, and here it is.
Let's see. Alrighty, so here we go. Omniscience out. It is a 1/1 sprint at this point. Now everything in hand is free. There
I
goes
think
the
that's
invasion
game.
of Arcavios. That is going to go fetch something from the sideboard, which is going to be, we estimate, Season of Weaving. Yes, indeed. Which is going to choose Paw Prints, which is adorable. And we're going to make copies of stuff bouncing the invasion and make infinite copies of Omniscience.
So now at this point, I mean, there's not enough reach for Nathan. So, I mean, normally you think like, oh, maybe I'll just Monstrous Rage to trample over these 1/1s. Not when infinite of them will be dealt with. Plus, you get this to be able to return all of Nathan's permanents, can keep the lands, but that's about it.
Yeah. It's pretty gross, honestly. Turn 4 combo, bye-bye. Yep, that's it. Where's a Pyroclasm when you need it?
Yeah, no kidding. I'm kind of imagining that, there is a deterministic way to get it where you can just maybe get a bunch of confounding riddles in hand as well so you can protect against other spells. Wow. Did Ryan do it? Is this deck awesome?
I don't know. We're going to find out because if he keeps cooking, we're going to see him tomorrow. That's for sure.
Yeah, and of course, this is a win and in for these players, making it into Day 2 with a win here. But of course, at 5-1, these players do not want to settle for just limping into Day number 2 here.
So while the players do sideboard, I believe we can take a look at their deck list just to give you a better idea of what on earth is going on in Ryan's list here. It's pretty sweet.
Let's pull up Ryan's here to start, as this is awesome. So here it is, the work of art here, everyone. Looks awesome. And as far as what to bring in from this side, we're going to see these temporary lockdowns coming in. We can see these get lost, I'd imagine, as kind of our slam dunk cards. Grand Abolisher is definitely going to be for any kind of counter spells. But, this is unknown territory here, so forgive us if we get these wrongs there, chat.
Yeah, but basically, just mill as much as you can. You've got the Falahi Archaeologist. You've got the Picklock Prankster to help you mill. Even Chart a Course will mill for you. Meticulous Archive, Surveil, i.e. mill, will get that into the bin for you, too. So this is kind of sweet.
It's really sweet, and I mean, the kind of Azorius decks that we've seen with these kind of cards of discarding a bunch of cards, putting cards into the graveyard, would be the Oculus deck. The Oculus deck kind of fell out of favor as there's a lot of great removal, and it just doesn't look as impressive as it did, let's say, at the World Championship here a while ago. So maybe this is the new Azorius Moment of Truth Picklock Prankster deck. So let's take a look at the other deck list here from Nathan Stoyer. This is going to be something we have seen a good chunk of, but still big bad of the format. Extremely good card, or extremely good deck. Hard to argue with.
Only one burst lightning, though. Pff, come on. We can do 4 damage to face.
Yeah. I mean, 4 damage. 4 damage is not even that significant. And also, as far as this game just went, Nathan's not going to get to 5 mana if it plays out like that.
Yeah, no. So how does he disrupt this combo then?
Well, I would see Paw Patch Formation seems excellent. Just destroying any enchantments would be ideal. And the nice thing that Ryan has going for him is the Paw Patch Formation stock is a little bit lower right now. They're not as high of numbers when Golgari was kind of the best deck. So you see 2 here and there to deal with Domain and Leyline Binding and stuff, but we don't see the full 4 of like we saw, you know, earlier.
Or even with the Abhorrent Oculus, you know, trying to get rid of that thing before it takes over the game.
Yeah, looks really awesome.
Alrighty, so players sideboarding, and yeah, Nathan Story a little bit in disbelief there, kind of just like, what on earth did I just get slapped in the face with?
And I mean, that being said, you know, these Gruul decks can also win on turn 4. They can win on turn 3.
Sure.
You know, so like this is a bit where, you know, Nathan has a combo deck too. It's just pump spells, manifold mouse, and Nathan can really do some damage here on the play as well.
So he's got to be pretty picky with his opening hand now going into game 2 here. Up against what is essentially an unknown quantity, we could say, for most of the competitors this weekend.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. Looks awesome. And, you know, I wasn't really rooting for anyone going into this tournament. I am now. I know we're supposed to stay biased, but, I mean, this deck is too cool.
Stay biased? Well, you're doing a good job.
Yeah, unbiased, excuse me. It kind of gives me vibes of, for anybody, I'm going to probably age myself here, but standard back in the day of Azorius Godpharaoh's Gift, you know?
Oh, I hated that deck.
Yeah, the refurbish, bring back Godpharaoh's Gift on turn 4, but also have a bunch of ways to discard it and also control the battlefield, you know? I mean, that took second at a Pro Tour, losing to this kind of newish player, Seth Manfield, in the finals.
Yeah. Sure. Yeah, I think I've heard of him. Seems pretty good.
Yeah,
good
exactly.
Player. Yeah.
And I also love that deck. I played so much Godpharaoh's Gift back in the day.
You would. You like your silly blue-white nonsense. Blech. Anyway, we can still be friends, though. We just must never play Magic against each other.
That's fair. That's fair. Yeah. You play too fast and aggressive of decks, you'd be beating me down anyways. So.
No, I just get frustrated and then flip the table. But anyway, here we go. Heartfire Hero hits the board. Turn 2. Can we follow up with something cool? It is indeed. Our Manifold Mouse targeting that as far as Dispersal gets rid of it. So here we go. Ryan having the tools necessary to stave off the damage from Nathan Stoyer.
Yeah, Ifaro's Dispersal was kind of the new hot tech that we saw from Shota at Worlds that played this in the Azorius Oculus list. And the card is just incredibly good against Gruul, especially, you know, when you're trying to deal with these cards where pump spells could protect them.
Turn passes back, just a land here from Ryan. A couple people in chat asking about the loop. There's only one season of weaving, so how do we cast it infinitely?
Yep, because you are picking up the invasion. The invasion can search your graveyard, your library, or that. So you're just getting it back from your graveyard over and over and over again, bouncing it repeatedly. And yeah, turns out when you can get Omniscience into play, you can kind of pick your way to win.
Anything is possible. Pick lock prankster. Woo! Hello. Alrighty. So we are digging.
This has to be the ideal thing. You get the way to be able to reanimate Omniscience. Omniscience goes to the yard. So with Ryan picking that up, I would think that means he already has an Awakening to be able to bring this back.
I would imagine so.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah, that's, I mean, you're going to get out of games real quick.
Yep.
Temporary lockdown, going to take care of everything on Nathan Stoyer's board for the time being. So Ryan Normanden's life total going to be sitting pretty at 15. Where are we going here for former world champion Nathan Stoyer? It is Heartfire Hero. It gets targeted and in for 3 damage, down to 12.
Okay, if we're here, if we're land 4 and Ryan wins, these games have been not remotely close.
No. Do we have mana up for a kill spell? Well, we know what we're getting. It's Omniscience time, baby. So that is a 1/1 spirit right now.
Okay.
We're going to go play another invasion. Yep, there is Nathan Stoyer. He can't do anything about it. Can't kill or interact with this board. GG.
Unreal. Unreal. This is incredible. I mean, look at that. You were able to combo on turn 4 from Ryan's
Twice.
perspective twice while having a turn 1 dispersal to bounce the aggressive start and even have a lockdown to contain the battlefield.
Yep.
I mean, that definitely seems like the higher end of the draw of the deck, but
Yeah, for sure.
I mean, that seems like a Gruul Destroyer, and that was not remotely close.
I want to know about the match that he lost because this deck could do some numbers this weekend. If
I
it keeps
bet it
playing
wasn't
like
against Gruul.
that.
Congrats to Ryan. That was
Yeah, that was
impressive.
sweet. Awesome
Impressive
to see that
stuff.
deck. Alrighty, we are going to be checking out some more deck lists here for our backup match, which is going to be, let me get my notes here, it is going to be Nick Lanzo versus Steve Rubin. Demir midrange versus Golgari midrange. So it's going to be a
There we
midrange
go.
slugfest. Everyone loves those, don't we, Corey?
Yeah, absolutely. So, Steve Rubin, I bet a lot of people that have been around the game here for a long time are going to recognize that name. He's been dominant on the Pro Tour in his time. Ruben Zoo, is his handle there, so you can imagine what style of decks we used to play back in the day. And this is Golgari. Golgari here is not necessarily a deck that has been really in favor too much, but the one thing you'll notice about this deck is there's no demon package. The demon package ended up being not great with all these bounce spells in here. This is just good old-fashioned the rock magic here, trying to just play removal spells and well-statted creatures.
I like this list.
Yeah, this looks really cool to me.
2 copies of Thrun main deck? I love it.
Yeah, have you ever tried to play Demir and beat a Thrun? It's not easy.
No.
I'll tell you that.
I bet you get thrown over.
You do get thrown over. That was impressive. That was impressive.
Thank you. I have many more in my arsenal. Let's take a look at the Demir mid-range list here from Nick Lanzo. Now, this looks pretty standard to what we've expected to see from the Demir decks.
Yep, truly, really a stock list here. This isn't really playing any of the new hot tech of a Hopeless Nightmare, Fear of Isolation or anything. This is just playing the good cards, playing really the Demir deck of 3 weeks ago.
Yeah.
And normally you think like, oh, well, maybe Nick wasn't, hip to the new tech or something. I don't necessarily believe that that is the better version by any means. I think this is a deck that is still tried and true, still very powerful.
Those were words that came out of your mouth. Love it. And yes, you say about 3 weeks ago, Arena Championship 7.
Yep.
We saw plenty of that. We saw so many fairies.
Don't remind me.
Huh? Oh, yeah. Cue the sad violin. The world's tiniest violin for Corey. Didn't have the greatest time in that one, did you?
And I was playing Demir, so, take my comments with a grain of salt. 30th, 30th out of 48. It's not great, not the best, but not the worst.
If it was 30th at this weekend, I'd be very impressed.
Then I'd be happy.
Yeah.
Then I'd be happy for sure. It just shows I'm washed, Yeah.
Well, you still make it to these things, You're still pretty good at it. We are ready to jump down into the feature match area, so let's go and see how this game plays out between Steve Rubin and Nick Lanzo. Where's our turn 1 Land War? Hey, there we go. You're on time, Lenny. Good job, bud. Oh, never mind. He's dead. He heckin' dead. There goes Lenore Elf, so no ramping here.
All right, so players are switched here. Steve Rubin is on the top there, so bear with us on that. Steve Rubin, of course, won a Pro Tour. Won a Pro Tour with a really awesome green-white deck here quite a while ago.
Look at you remembering all these cool. Do you remember which Pro Tour?
I don't remember exactly which Pro Tour. I remember the top 8 was completely stacked, and he beat my brother in the top 8. So,
okay.
yeah.
I remember. So it's a bit of bad blood there. Yeah, I'm joking, obviously.
Exactly.
I'm sure someone in chat could tell us which one that is. Kibler Google, let's go. So, yes, we aren't able to switch the perspectives, so just bear with us. As we have Spyglass Siren down on the battlefield here, and we have the Mosswood Dread Knight trying to get things done here as well.
Pro Tour Shadows over Innistrad. That's what it was.
Speaking of Innistrad,
yeah,
what a great segue. Thank you, chat.
Exactly. Thank you, chat. That was also one of the greatest top 8s of all time. Y'all just go Google it right now. It was truly the most stacked top 8 I've ever seen. All right, so here comes the Spyglass Siren here. Be able to get it in there and see what we can do here.
Dink. So Mosswood Dread Knight hanging out on board here. Steve Rubin is on top of our screen there as Floodpit's Drowner is going to jump in before combat and tap our buddy bro dude guy face, giving him a stun counter, and if we need to, we can get rid of that later. This card is a pain in the butt. It comes back, and it just brings its friends with it too, evidently, but it's very persistent.
It's so, so very good. And another card I just want to mention again, I know we mentioned it in our intro here, but Thrun is really something that we want to be keeping an eye on. If the board is at somewhat parity where Nick is just not wildly ahead. If a Thrun hits the battlefield, it cannot be removed. It will just win the game eventually.
Yeah, you need like a sacrifice effect or something just to get rid of this big dumb idiot.
Exactly. And Blot Out is a card that does some good work against it post board, but once again, you have to have it. There's only one in the 75 here. So Thrun is going to be truly amazing.
Thunderful, if you will.
There you go. Keep them coming.
And indestructible, well, yep, that doesn't exactly help against sacrifice effects. Alrighty, what's happening here? Anoint with Affliction, getting rid of these pesky little critters, and we're shuffling away. Floodpit's Drowner taking care of the second copy thereof.
Okay, so Dimir kind of doing its best work here in the hands of Nick, just being the control role here. And that is the good thing about these Dimir decks is you get to play any role you want. You can build your deck post-board configuration to be a little more aggressive, and you can kind of be this tempo style deck. You can transform it to have more creatures and removal to be a control deck, and you can bring in Shieldreds to be more of a mid-range deck, and that is the power of Dimir in the metagame.
Yeah, Dimir is pretty strong at the moment, but we could say that almost about any archetype.
Yeah.
When we saw the standings just now, Mono White Tokens was on top of the leaderboard, so
yeah,
you could basically pick your poison.
But I mean, the one thing that we've been saying all weekend and for weeks is this Azorius Omniscient deck is obviously the best deck. It's not close. We've been saying it for weeks.
In which timeline, my friend?
Yeah, not this one, that's for sure.
Second Spyglass Siren hits the board now for Nicolanzo. And yes, apologies once again that the names are inverted, as we're going to see the Anoint with Affliction take care of the Spyglass Siren.
Yeah, and the one thing Nick has just not been able to do is have one of the, kind of meat and potatoes of the draw, the Kaito or the Enduring Curiosity, something to really push the advantage here. Definitely looking for that. And there is land 5 for Steve, so we'll see if it's there, as you pretty much just always jam Thrun, especially because it just can't be countered too.
Thrun. Come on. Nope. We're just going to animate a cottage.
We shall
Boo. See. It's fine. We'll see Thrun eventually, I'm sure. But the Restless Cottage does deal a hefty chunk of damage here for our Golgari mid-range player. And we're going to see Tashana's Tidebinder take care of it.
Okay. Yep, countered the ability. Now, this isn't going to shut it off or anything, but it will counter the ability of animating for now.
Yep.
So Steve still can tap Tad mana in response, something like that. And Steve just double-checking that.
Yep. So, just checking here with the judge to make sure that it's not shutting off its mana ability. And again, apologies, friends, that we do have the names on the overlay mixed up, but this is pre-recorded, so unfortunately, we can't take backsies this one. So just bear with us. We still want to show you all the magic we can, and a little overlay hiccup ain't going to stop that.
Yeah, so, I mean, the spot where this would turn the ability off, is if it's an artifact or a creature. Right now, it's a land.
Yep.
So it's countering that ability. Doesn't really do anything to it now, but... Of course, I never feel like you can't ask a judge a question if you're mildly unsure, Yeah. The amount of times I ask judge questions at these events is a lot more than you would think, And you just always want to make sure you do something before you take an action. Judges are your friends.
Yep. And, I mean, even look at some of the best players in the world. Reed Duke, we've seen him confer with judges multiple times.
Exactly.
When we've covered him, he'll ask a judge a question. It's all right. It's not, it doesn't diminish your skill in any way.
Yeah.
Rather check to make sure than get, rules violation or something to that
Exactly.
effect.
He could be a judge. He's such a great Magic player. That's for sure. But yeah, never a problem to ask about this.
Shout out to all the judges out there. You guys are the real MVPs.
That's true.
So the players here Just trying to determine what the correct outcome or the correct interaction is here with Tashana's Tidebinder and the land. That was a creature when it was targeted, now is no longer. Well,
Yep.
it wasn't a creature.
Yeah, it's
It
just a
counted the
land.
ability, yeah.
Yep. So now here's the big turn here from Nick. If we can get Enduring Curiosity down or Kaito, something like that to really get it going. And the thing is, Nick has a great play no matter what, even if we can't do that, just animating the Sanctuary and getting in there. So the fact that Nick didn't just do that, it's got to lead me to believe that, he's got a little bit more gas in the tank. There's 2 cards available, and we're going to see something else here. So.
Children's here.
That'll do. That is a one of in this list from Nick instead of Kaito number 4. And
Children's dead.
there you go. I do think Enduring Curiosity would have been even better there by a wide margin.
For sure, yeah.
So, maybe a little unlucky from Nick to find the wrong 4-drop at this moment.
Children's great and all, but it doesn't really do anything if it dies on upkeep.
Yeah, kind of unreal that Shieldred has become a sideboard card. We see
right?
We see Shieldred a lot more in the sideboard than we do the main deck, but just shows how prepared, the metagame is for just I dare even say a vanilla creature,
Yeah.
But a creature that can just die to a cut down.
Yes.
Of course, Shieldred does so much more than just being a 4/5 death toucher, but, being able to just have it die to any removal spell makes it a little less exciting.
Yeah. We like exciting.
We sure do.
I haven't seen any overlords. Where are my overlords?
Yeah, those as well. I don't think are that great. I think the overlords, of course, are amazing.
You take that back.
Yeah, the overlords are great cards, but Domain itself proves to not be the best deck right now, but still strong.
Fine.
Still very strong.
Mishra's Foundry getting in the way of a critter here, perhaps. Tidebinder it can trade with.
Yeah. Really leads me to believe that Steve's hand is not very good.
Yeah. Steve's having a bit of a rough time with cards in hand at this point. As just taking a look here at Mishra's Foundry. Not a card we see all that often, but pretty good in this list. And there goes Tashana's Tidebinder. So stemming the bleeding a little bit.
Okay, this is definitely the time where the battlefield is still manageable. If Steve can find a big threat, we all know the number 1 threat to find right now, it would still be phenomenal.
Thron. I'm just going to summon it into being. Even though this game is already finished, this is pre-recorded for anyone who's just joined us. Thron? No! Land again? I mean, go Restless Cottage. Woo! Hey, we make food. Food will help in this instance.
Yeah, we'll see. Nick could, of course, have a go for the throat for this land, but might just not care. A food is pretty minimal. It does look like he has a way to remove it and is just debating, do I care? I think if Nick just said, yeah, you can keep doing that over and over again, it'd be A-okay.
Okay. Well, second cottage to replace the one that just got. Go for the throat, taking care of that. Untap, upkeep draw. For Nick Lanzo, what do we find?
And Nick does seem hellbent. Just drew 1 card there. So, even if another Shieldred or something comes down, which Steve Rubin is playing 3 of, that's definitely the higher side of the most main deck copies of Shieldred we have for sure. So find another one, using the go for the throat, maybe it wouldn't have been the best. And now this cottage can actually just block.
Yep. Just going to be sitting here waiting for this 3/3 to come at it. No buff of any sort currently for our everything critter here in our Soulstone Sanctuary. No Kaitos making their presence felt here for Nick Lanzo just yet. Whee!
So there's got to be a plan for this Restless Cottage, otherwise attacking into that would not be great.
I sense a plan.
A trick?
A trick, perhaps. Tashana's Tidebinder once again preventing the land from becoming a critter. So that is going to do it for game number 1 here. Nick Lanzo on Demir midrange, doing the beatdown thing pretty effectively.
Yep, really nice there. Didn't see a lot of action from Steve after that Shieldred. Didn't really have any other big threats that he ended up finding. And Demir able to close that out, even without the signature cards in the deck, the Kaito or the Enduring Curiosity.
Sideboard time now for both players. Let's take a look and see what Golgari midrange can do up against the big bad of the formats. Still, I would say, in Dimir midrange.
Yep. Absolutely. So, Golgari bringing in, let's see, Terrace Under looks pretty good if you want to deal with Enduring Curiosity. You can bring in some number of Duresses. Blotouts are excellent against Dimir. I absolutely love that, being able to deal with Kaito. The turn it comes into play, as well as the Curiosities. Yeah, let's see. So we're going to take a look. Here is the Dimir list of what we're going to bring in against Steve. Definitely blot out if Nick knows that there's Thruns, which of course he doesn't. It's not open deck list, but I think you would bring in blot out anyways. It's just a good card up against, Shieldreds, other tough to deal with threats. Outside of that, Preachers can definitely come in. Always a very strong card.
Yeah, Death Touch especially against big dumb creatures.
Exactly. You could bring in some Duresses as well. There's a lot of configurations you can go with. And we'll see exactly what these players want to do.
Some of these sideboards, it's kind of just like one of fun ofs, a little bit of this, a little bit of that, sprinkle some of the sauce in here too,
Exactly. Yep. And here are the signature card here from Steve Rubin, our Pro Tour champion, up in the top left corner. That is going to be the card that Steve wants to see in play on turn 5 every single game.
As soon as both players are ready to rock and roll, or at least we are ready to show you game number 2, we're going to jump down into it. So Nick Lanzo is up a game.
And both these players doing great. 5-1. 5-1, still a great record. Of course, these players want to end ideally X-1 or better, and you feel amazing. X-2, you feel pretty solid. And then X-3, you debate if you want to, still try. It gets a little difficult at X-3. So here we go into the game. We see Steve Rubin with a couple of lands pass back to Nick. Thanks to that movie magic, we get to show you the all magic here. And a pass of the turn.
Just to confirm, because my brain's getting confused now, Nick won game 1.
Yes.
Yes.
Yep.
All right.
Absolutely.
Nick game 1. So now it is up to Steve on Golgari to get a game back here. Starting off with Glissa, pretty nice indeed, or at least attempting to, but we have some counter spells. Phantom Interference says no thank you very much.
Yep, and we'll see what the follow-up is here for Nick. Just says go, and that's the thing. Like, this could be a draw that doesn't have a lot of aggression in it, or Nick really decided to pivot to a much more control deck in the post-board games.
So for the Golgari side of things, we really want to just keep deploying threats. Hopefully uncounterable threats. Shieldred is very counterable, but is there an answer here from the Dimir side?
Yeah, definitely better be if we just untap. This game could be basically over at that point.
All right, Floodpit's Drowner are going to tap Shieldred. Not ideal, but, a way at least to get her down and dealt with eventually. So now we'll take 2 damage, though, as she is still on the board.
Yep, decided to draw a card instead of just drowning it away right away. Would be very shocked if we don't see this Drowner just get rid of Shieldred, as it's kind of a free removal here. But, the good thing for Steve is, Nick did have to use up 4 mana for that removal spell. Sure, it dealt 2 damage, but that's minuscule. And we'll see what the follow-up is here.
Hey, Floodpit's Drowner does their best, all right?
Yeah, absolutely.
He's a good little, what are you, merfolk fish thing.
Merfolk fish thing, yes.
Merfolk, yes. Thing is not a creature type in Magic the Gathering, although I will petition for it to be.
There you go, I like it.
Cool, great. So, both players are going to shuffle up here. Present the decks to each other. And onwards we go. Thrun. Land 5, yes?
I feel like Steve would be moving a lot faster if that was the case.
Glissa. Yeah, sure.
Still very strong.
Glissa's cool, don't get me wrong. But she's no Thrun. Fairy Mastermind hits the board here. This is one of the cards that we actually haven't seen all that much on the other Dimir lists this weekend.
Yeah, this is a card that is kind of getting phased out a little bit, which is shocking. Incredible card, one of the better cards in Dimir, especially up against like Beanstalk, stuff like that. Just a couple weeks ago. Just really shows how fast Standard moves here.
Yeah.
Looks like this could be a Kaido here.
Hiya!
And, oh, nope, Curiosity.
Ah, nice. Okay. So is there an answer for Steve? Nope. We're going to get some cards here. Great.
Yeah.
Okay, so Curiosity, the cat shows up.
Yeah, if Steve had a cut down there, he would have had to do it like beginning of combat or declare attackers before blockers, so Kaito couldn't be flashed in. So,
yeah, true.
Nick really knew that the coast is clear whenever Steve said no blocks.
All right. Turn passes back now. We have 5 lands on the board. Do we have a Thrun? I don't think we do, and that makes me really sad.
So Steve does have access to a bunch of Terra Sunder as well, though.
Yeah.
That is going to be kind of the best card for Curiosity. You really want to fire that off before there's any kind of counter spell, or even like a Go for the Throat. Nick could use a Go for the Throat on Curiosity as a pseudo counter spell to that and just put it as just the enchantment side.
It is pretty sweet the way that you can use your spot removal on your own creatures. In the different archetypes, Mono Red using it on their Screaming Nemesis.
Yep.
Just to prevent life gain from an opponent, if needs be.
Yeah, the Curiosities are really, really awesome designs, I must say. I'm a fan, so there it is.
Woo! Terra Sunder. Bye-bye, kitty cat. Here comes Glissa. Gonna see some card draw here, perhaps.
Yeah, I would imagine at a comfortable life total, so just draw some cards, gain some advantage.
Oh, nice.
And
Creature
a
of
follow-up.
the Schism. Yeah, this is looking good here for Golgari.
Absolutely, and I love these new configurations of Golgari. I mean, I definitely just don't like Golgari right now when it is the demon aspect. Unholy Annex. It was one of the best cards not too long ago, and it really fell out of favor pretty quickly with all the bounce effects that are in Standard right now.
That's just brutal at the moment.
Yeah.
Unsummons. This town ain't big enough. As far as Dispersal, we saw with the Azorius list, but here comes the second copy of Enduring Curiosity now.
Yep, still looking great. Really close game here. Can kind of go either way.
And getting real grindy now, which is what we expect from mid-range matchup.
Yeah. Yeah, this matchup's always close, always super fun.
This is cool. If the life totals are, in fact, even, Preacher of the Schism gets to do both things when they attack.
Yep, absolutely. And we'll see, the Fairy Mastermind in play will mean that if Steve does draw a card, Nick will draw one as well. But if Steve does have a removal spell for the Mastermind and maybe doesn't want to kill the Curiosity, being able to draw 2 cards here would be excellent.
Oh, just figuring out what lands he wants to tap. Ooh, blot out. Nice. Okay. Sweet.
Huge. Absolutely huge. Steve having 5 ways to exile Curiosity with 1 card is just so good in this Postborn match.
Yeah.
He was definitely prepared for Dimir.
Yeah, that was cool. Now the coast is pretty much clear here for Golgari to just go absolutely ham. So, trigger. Ooh, go for the throat, kill that before the draw happens to prevent any advantage going to Nick's side of things. Making the little 1-1 as well because the life totals were tied.
Yeah, so there's kind of a masterclass of the perfectly most efficient way to do things. Steve made sure and attacked, got the trigger on the stack, so there's not going to be a removal spell in response, anything like that, and then dealt with the Fairy Mastermind. So little things like that keep adding up to, well, why Steve is a Pro Tour champion.
Fabled Passage, the last thing to hit the board here for Steve Rubin. And that is going to tie things up here, so... a game apiece for Nick Lanzo and Steve Rubin. Nice. All right, we're going to skip ahead here and get into the final game between these two players. As we mentioned, this is pre-recorded, so unfortunately we cannot switch the names around. It's all baked in, as it were, so we're doing our best here to keep track of who's who in this here zoo.
So, Duress taking Duress here, very iconic, and a beautiful Duress from both players.
Yeah, those are quite
Yep.
pretty. I like those.
We'll see how this game 3 goes.
Both players just getting their lands down, sorting their mana bases out. Excellent choice of swamp there as well from Nick Lanzo.
Yeah, very good art there. And now this is the game where I feel like we are going to see the powerhouse. Nick hasn't seen Thrun yet, doesn't know that that really powerful card could stand in his way here. It just feels like it's going to show its face this time around.
Front. Come on. No, not yet, though, because we're not at 5 mana. But Anoint with Affliction will take care of our friendly Preacher of the Schism. He seems like a nice guy.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, sure. Why not?
And we'll see what the follow-up is here from Nick. Definitely want to, get something on the battlefield that's meaningful. This is the type of turn where you are plenty fine going land for Kaito. You don't always have to wait for that one to be ninjutsu'd. That's a perfectly reasonable play if he were to have it.
So just playing a land. If nothing else, we can activate the Soulstone Sanctuary on the end step for Nick Lanzo.
Yeah, I love having that mana sink available for Dimir. Dimir is a very mana-hungry deck, and just being able to always make sure you use your mana is just being mana efficient in Magic, and decides to not even go for it here.
Okay.
That surprises me a bit.
Well, 4 mana open, black-based deck. Likely die?
Yeah, even if it dies, then maybe that removal spell doesn't get aimed at your next Curiosity, something like that. But, of course, it's all contextual to Nick's hand if he very much needs the mana.
For sure. How else will we cost Thrun?
But I love this.
Oh,
I love this.
Oh, nice. What are you doing?
Steve is like
End
just
step,
animating, like making sure to use his mana, recognizing if you want to kill this, sure, no problem. That's one less removal spell for the other creatures that Steve's going to be playing.
Okay, so passes the turn back, and the Soulstone Sanctuary lives. So Steve Rubin, I don't want to say getting away with it there, but, not getting punished.
Yeah. And even if he had land 5 Thrun here, since it wasn't destroyed now, if I was Steve, I would still just start by attacking, force Nick to make a choice. And when you're both at 20, the amount of the odds that it's going to be destroyed with a Go for the Throat or something is pretty low. So a Drowner to tap it down, though, is a pretty solid play.
Yep. Anything in response, instant speed, perhaps, for Steve to at least get a benefit from the land before it goes night-night. Nope. Oh, yep. Maybe. Perhaps. Removal spell. Hi-ya! Go for the throat. No, Affliction. Okay, so that gets rid of that. So our Soulstone Sanctuary will stick around a little longer. It's just going to have a bit of a nap first.
Yep, there we go. Nothing too serious here. And here is another duress.
Let's have a look. Let's see. Tashana's Tidebinder, Blot Out, and Go for the Throat in hand. Cool.
Well, for sure, if there is the all-powerful Thrun in hand, we're definitely going to be taking that Blot Out. Go for the Throat is a more efficient removal spell, so if he's full of Glissas, Preachers, that kind of thing, then you can definitely leave the Blot Out. And that seems to be what Steve decides to do.
Go for the Throat. No longer a factor, at least that copy of it.
And it looks like since we played the land, all perfect information decides whether or not to get the Sanctuary animated.
Yep. Looks like that's the only path currently for Nick Lanzo.
But if Nick does do that, cannot cast either of the 2 cards in hand. So,
nice.
this leads me back to that turn where Nick decided to not animate that Sanctuary. Now he's kind of in a weird spot where he would love to attack with it, but, just doesn't want to tap out here.
Now we're going to see Glissa Sunslayer hit the board. Does this warrant a blot out?
I can't imagine it wouldn't. I mean, Glissa is still powerful enough.
Yeah.
You have to deal with it. The advantage you're going to get off of it is going to be far too good.
Just double checking.
Yep.
It is an exile effect. And it is for the greatest mana value.
And I believe the Drowner should be exiled as well from Nick's graveyard.
Yes.
Not the most impactful thing, but of course that should be what it is.
So the players both doing a pretty good job of keeping the opposing threats off the battlefield.
Yeah, absolutely. And this is the type of game where Thrun is going to shine eventually. You know, there's no pressure from Nick. You know, there's no curiosity gaining a bunch of land advantages, and you know, it's just eventually going to do some work.
Well, here now we have the opportunity to get one copy of Soulstone Sanctuary up while keeping the mana available for the Tishana's Tidebinder that we know is in hand. Okay.
Yeah, looks like played the wrong land there. Made sure that you could attack with this one. Kind of doesn't matter.
Yeah.
But I believe one was foil, one was not. So easy to differentiate them.
All right, now the opposing Soulstone Sanctuary has awoken from his nap. Where do we go from here? Is it Thrun time yet? Steve, please?
Definitely what Steve would love to do. With that blot out gone. Now, Steve doesn't know it's only a one-up.
Okay,
but
Shieldred, not too shabby.
Yep. So the last card in hand was the Merfolk Trickster. Or, excuse me, the
Tishana's Tidebinder.
Tishana's Tidebinder. So with this ability on the stack of Shieldred, you can counter it.
Oh, just going straight to draw?
Well, you draw, and then the ability goes on the stack,
Okay,
so
gotcha.
then you can counter it. Now it's just a 4/5 creature, but at any time, if you take care of this Tidebinder, it's going to do some work. So one thing that I think players should pick up on if you're playing against Steve right now, Steve made a conscious choice of leaving the green mana open compared to a swamp. That would trigger something in my brain that I would be thinking, okay, so Terrace Under is the card, and is making sure to, you know, be set up against an Enduring Curiosity. So in my brain, if I'm Nick, I would be like, I bet Steve has a Terrace Under. Just something like that you want to be picking up on when you're playing up against the best players. Everything they do is on purpose.
Yep. Very measured, very meticulous.
Yep.
Especially players who've won Pro Tours.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They tend to be pretty good, believe it or not.
Turns out, yeah. Shieldred now. Getting feisty here. A 4/5, still going to attack cleanly through a 3/3.
Yep. 4/5 getting in there. We'll see if the Sanctuary is willing to trade as well. Looks like it is not, so Steve's going to have something to do with that 3 mana.
Dunk. Down to 16.
All right, big draw step. Nick is definitely falling behind here, and Shieldred does not give you a lot of time to recover. But, you know, if there is a go for the throat to deal with this Shieldred, we're at least, you know, back to a point where Nick is ahead with 2 3/3s compared to 1. And then we'll see if Steve has a replacement.
I do like the pressure that Shieldred puts on a matchup.
So much, yeah.
People start turning things sideways. Well, not when they're vigilant, but, you know, attacks happen.
Definitely.
And those Soulstone Sanctuaries take each other out. One gets through for 3 points of damage.
And we'll see what the follow-up is here from Nick. Nothing, so it's clearly not a go for the throat or something like that to be able to target Shieldred. So not anything too special so far. Could be something like a Drowner. Yep. So that's a good removal spell in air quotes, but if Steve has a removal spell for it, then it does not work.
So fingers crossed then from the Dimir side of things that there isn't a removal spell, and alas, there was indeed. So Shieldred gets to hang around a little while longer. Triggered ability continually making life difficult here for Nick Lanzo.
Yep, absolutely.
Dink! 8 for 3 again.
Just fighting an uphill battle when you're up against Shieldred, gaining
Literally.
2.
Effectively doing 1 each turn.
Exactly.
I'll get you. Just 15 more turns. Buddy, you're going to be dead by that point.
For sure.
Oh, boy. Where's Thrun? Preach of the Schism. You're not Thrun. I just really want to see a Corey.
I do too. I mean, it is just the absolute Dimir
Yeah.
hammer. So, you know, it is awesome to see a card that is not really played except for one purpose of beating Dimir.
Phantom Interference now going to counter, or at least try, counter the Preach of the Schism. Does have other abilities, or the other ability to make a 2/2.
Yeah, and just pretty much use this as a, you know, a 5 mana 2/2 flyer, tap down some mana. Doesn't look great right now, that's for sure. But something like a Kaito or Enduring Curiosity into a Go for the Throat, that would be kind of exactly what we're looking for right now.
Okay, no, with Affliction, taking care of the Preacher, that's a decent way to at least keep the pressure on.
Yep. Does look like Nick has one more card there. You got to kind of think it's a land. As his body language doesn't say it's the strongest card. Well, because Shieldred is also on the battlefield still.
That's enough to make anyone a little grumpy, I will say.
Exactly, yep.
In for another 4, so the door is closing very quickly here on Golgari on Demir. Golgari midrange just doing what it does best and just getting all the value it possibly can from the cards that it uses.
Down to 4, so has one more turn to chump block Shieldred and then just kind of hope, but, you know, we're already at this such low life total that, you know, really anything is going to be able to close the game from Steve Rubin's side. So really need an answer right now to feel okay about this game from Nick's side.
We know that both of these decks are packing plenty of removal, but the Shieldred has just been a super sticky threat that, you know, if left unchecked, it is going to do this. It's going to win the game. Inevitability will be on that side as we see. What was that card? Stabby something or other.
Just stab.
Just stab.
You were right.
Stabby something or other, yeah. Getting rid of the flyer at least.
Okay. This is interesting. So decides to ninjutsu instead of just paying its 4 mana.
Yeah.
That will leave him susceptible to a blot out here within combat. If Steve has a blot out, you're not going to be able to tap that down. And if there's no other follow-up from Nick, you could have just hard cast it afterwards.
Taking a look. Will we see a run? I would love it. 13 to 4 now, the life totals. Steve Rubin on Golgari midrange has the higher life total at the moment. Again, apologies for the names being mixed up here. Doing our best to keep track of who's who. I'm guessing that's not a Thrun.
Doesn't look like it with 4 mana. Let's see what the follow-up is here.
Terra Sunder.
Okay.
Yep.
Excellent, excellent.
Probably been hanging on to that for a little while now.
Yep. And there is the Disdainful Stroke that's able to deal with it.
Yeah.
And Nick, I'm sure, holding on to that one for quite a while as well.
Was that a 1 of in the sideboard, I think I saw?
I believe it was, yeah. So Nick's going to have one draw step here. It has to be a Go for the Throat or, you know, any kind of removal spell.
Yep. Go for the Throat or bust.
Yep. As drawing a card off Kaito, you'll just still lose the game. Oh, yeah, and Disdainful Stroke looks like can't even counter that, of course.
Oh, because the mana value wasn't 4 even though they paid for.
Yeah, it's a kicker, so it is still...
kicker!
It is still 2.
Good catch.
And that's a good one for Steve to know about, that's for sure.
Yeah, because even though the mana value, this is what we learned about the Overlords, you see.
There we go,
Even though you spend 3 mana, their mana value is still what is represented on the card.
Yep, Terra Sunder does not count for the full 4. And now Steve just never has to play into it.
Yep. Haha, you know nothing.
Yep.
You know, bring out the flashy pen. Okay, we got a Dread Whispers, or are we just playing Creature?
Just playing it makes sense to me.
Critter, critter, apply pressure. There's a land. Is that an archive? Oh, that's it. Oh, man. So things not going super well there for Demir in the hands of Nick Lanza. But Steve Rubin, Golgari midrange, getting it done.
Yep, absolutely. Just didn't even need Thrun. You know, had all that spicy tech for the matchup in the main deck and still didn't need it. So big congrats to the Pro Tour champion, Steve Rubin.
I'm disappointed, but maybe we'll get to see him later if he keeps winning, you know.
Yeah, I bet we will. I bet we will. I mean, he's just a great player who's been around the game for so long. Maybe isn't playing as much as, you know, he was when he was dominating Pro Tours and stuff, but he's one of the players that will be able to pick up some Llanowar Elves and removal and Golgari and act like he's never left, that's for sure.
Llanowar Elves in Standard, you just see all the old-time Magic players
just
rocking up here.
Excellent.
Yeah. Friends, thank you so much for hanging out with us today. We have more Magic to show you. We're going to take a short break, hopefully short break. We'll get the players to hustle and sit down and start playing. So we'll see you after this. What's up, everybody? We just got counted down really fast, and it was great. Welcome back to coverage of Spotlight Foundations here at SCGCon in Atlanta, Georgia. I'm Ailey Loney. This is Corey Baumeister.
Hey,
and
hey.
We'll probably remain as such for the rest of the
I
weekend.
hope so.
I
Yeah.
hope so, too, yeah. If you had to morph into someone, though, never mind.
Yeah.
We'll think about that later. Yeah. So, friends, we're going to check out some standings for you, tell you and show you who's where doing what, and how many undefeated players we still have. 10.
Okay, here's the big thing. We officially are on the first page where there is not a full page of undefeated players. You know, that means that these 10 players are the last undefeated players, and there are some incredible ones. We see Jim Davis, John Covier, super great players, Devin O'Donnell, Doomwake, as well as just a bunch of other great players. And we're going to be bringing you some of these undefeated players here. I think y'all can kind of guess which one it's going to be.
Chat's been a little persistent about seeing a certain someone, so perhaps we
It's
can
us,
do
right?
that. Yeah.
I knew it. I knew it.
Sick. Yeah, chat loves us.
Another thing is Scott there in 8th place as well. We saw that really cool version of Demir Enchantments.
Yeah,
that was playing
cool.
some of the elements from Esper Pixie and then also playing Kaito and Enduring Curiosity. I have my eye on that deck list as well. I thought it looked really, really good.
Well, spoiler alert. We're going to see Esper Pixie quite a lot in this next round here. This is round number 8 for those of you keeping track. There are 9 rounds today. And also just to, you know, say kudos, congratulations to everyone who's picked up 6 wins so far. You're coming back tomorrow.
Automatically coming back tomorrow. Sweet. Definitely want to keep winning here if you are some of these undefeated players or even 6-1 players. And it always feels better. The dinner always tastes sweeter whenever you win those last 2 matches, that's for sure.
Yeah. If you go undefeated, you are sitting in such a good position to get into the top 8. And again, top 8, you get onto the Pro Tour.
Straight away. Yep.
Let's see if we can pull that off for a couple of our undefeated players here. Speaking of which, we're going to check out 2 of them right now. Our feature match for this round, friends, is going to be none other than one Devin O'Donnell up against John Cuvier playing Esper Pixie. So let's take a look at John's list first. What is this deck doing, Corey?
So John's list here, this is Esper Pixie. This is one of the new hotness here of the weekend. And I really like John's list. Playing the Optimistic Scavenger, as well as playing all 4 Sheltered by Ghosts. This deck, it looks like it's like, oh, this doesn't seem that powerful, but every piece kind of works together with the other pieces, and this deck just never runs out of steam. You're either pixieing back your Storm Chaser's Talons, you're bouncing it with This Town Ain't Big Enough, you're bouncing your removal spells like Nowhere to Run, you're emptying your opponent's hand with Hopeless Nightmare, and all while that stuff is happening, Optimistic Scavengers are putting counters on everything, your entity trackers are drawing you a card for everything coming into play. So this is a deck with a very low mana value, as these are all 1s and 2s essentially next to the entity trackers as the only 3-drop really, and you just never run out of steam and you eventually will grind out your opponent. Really cool deck. It's the new hotness. Only 75 players brought this deck, and there's a lot of them at the top of the standings.
There are indeed, and they're going to be looking to keep their undefeated streak going, but I think one Devin O'Donnell, a.k.a. Doomwake, playing Selesnya tokens is going to try and muck up those plans. This list is cool.
This is awesome. There's a lot of cool stuff going on here. Devin O'Donnell, of course, Doomwake here on Twitch, really a really awesome streamer, and is playing. The one thing that grabs my attention here is Wiltleaf Liege. There is 2 in the main, and there's 2 in the sideboard. So that just means that Devin was very prepared for this specific matchup. Anytime Hopeless Nightmare gets cast, and there's a Wiltleaf Liege in hand, well, it's going straight to the battlefield. And having 4 in the 75 is truly incredible.
Oh, man, that card is silly. Okay.
It really is.
Sweet. I'm looking forward to that, and we know that there's going to be plenty of discards, so I don't know if we're going to see all that much of those cards being cast at least, but I could be wrong.
Remember, it's already just a good card that boosts your team, but it is not open deck list for these players. We know the deck list, but they do not. So, Hopeless Nightmare, game number 1. We might see just a classic, like, look up, like...
Come on, let's do it, Okay.
Come on,
all right, I'm
really?
excited. Players are ready. Let's go watch some magic, and let's see who will remain undefeated here at Spotlight Foundations. A lot more elves to kick things off. Exactly what Doomwake wants. Devon, in this instance, we're going to get things going here with a shadowy backstreet for John and Cuvier. Do we surveil this card to the bottom? Or to the library, or graveyard, that's what it's called. Hopeless Nightmare in the bin. Ooh, perhaps.
There we
Perhaps he
go.
knows.
Yeah, absolutely. Easily could know, I mean,
Oh, nice.
does stream, so the information is always a little face up. Starting with a tap land here, not ideal for John, but the thing is, with these 3-color mana bases, sometimes they're not great, and they do count as a plains and a swamp to help out your Verges.
Verges are such sweet cards, as we see now. 2 of our scavengers hit the board. This card was an absolute beating in limited, excuse me, from Duskmourn. So it's kind of cool that they have found a home here alongside their Sheltered by Ghosts.
Yeah, absolutely. So we'll see if there is a powerful follow-up here. And the name of the game from Devin O'Donnell's deck is Celestia tokens, basically, and playing the Collector's Cage. So really trying to get a cage, get an Overlord underneath the cage, and then get 3 different powers and kind of go way over the top of basically every deck. So that's what Devin is going to be trying to do the majority of this game, and looks like we're going to see an impending Overlord here, which is also just amazing right now.
Yeah, so many tokens now.
Yeah.
If we see something like the Toby Beastie Befriender, all those tokens then gain flying. Having the 2 Pawpatch recruits out as well makes any targeted removal from John Cuvier's side of things just that much worse.
Yeah, honestly, an amazing start here from Doomwake up top, and a little lackluster here from John, and being on the draw. So John is definitely in for an uphill battle here for sure.
Yeah, not looking super hot right now, just with 2. I guess they are optimistic scavengers, so, we'll try and keep the hope alive here just a little bit longer.
Oh boy, and you saw John just shrug, and here it is. Hopeless Nightmare brings in the lead.
Look at him smiling. He knows. That's so cool. Now all of his green and all of his white creatures get the buff, and this is just going to be lights out now for John Cuvier.
I don't know why everyone's playing this Hopeless Nightmare card. 1 mana, your opponent loses 2 life, but they get a 4/4 that boosts their team. Doesn't seem very good to me, Ayla.
Oh, just the fact that there's like 2 variants of this card making its rounds. That's so fun.
And just with the reaction from John there, John knows. John knew they were in the main deck. This was not a secret. I'm sure these 2 are buddies in some regard. And that was pretty face up, it looked like, from John's reaction. Now I bet, especially if John knows that there is the 4 of in the 75, the first 4 cards that are going to be sideboarded out are Hopeless Nightmare.
Oh, that's a fun little game to play then. If you're Devin, you're just going to be like, haha, what are the odds that he's taken all of them out, so I can now take these out?
I mean, I still don't even think you take them out. The card's just great in the deck.
Funny.
It's still a fine card to have underneath the cage.
Yeah.
So I bet Devin is still going to bring him in, but we'll see.
Because the cage you can do at instant speed, right? Yeah.
Yes, correct.
Sweet. Yeah, oof, yeah. Getting the Whitley Liege out, that's a mouthful. Try to say that 10 times fast.
There you go.
Okay, Sheltered by Ghosts. We're going to trigger some bunny wabbits.
So this is all great and everything, but Sheltered by Ghost is going to exile this, then
get 2 counters of Optimistic Scavenger's own.
Yep, and I don't know if Devin forgot, but the Pawpatch is a spell or ability. So the Shelter by Ghosts, this was definitely missed.
Yeah, those rabbits definitely need to be putting counters on things, and clearly they're not paying attention. Bad rabbits, no carrots.
Yeah, and I mean, that is huge because
those flyers could just easily end the game.
Well, not even that. You could have put 1 counter on one of those 2 on flyers, and then the scavenger couldn't have got in there because it would have had enough power to deal with this creature. So an extremely big blunder here from Devin O'Donnell.
Oopsies. That's not what you want to be seeing at this stage in the tournament. It is obviously a very long day. This is round 8. So things will get missed as the tournament progresses, but let's hope that doesn't bite Devin in the butt.
Yep, absolutely. And, this is the thing. You saw a little slap of the face there from Devin. Competitive IRL. There's you can miss everything.
Yep.
And, it's not up to your opponent to remind you of things like that. So, gotta remember your stuff. That's for sure.
Lifelink now on the Optimistic Scavenger. It now has Ward. All of the counters just getting piled onto this powerful little 1-drop.
Yeah.
One drops lately have been kind of nuts.
Yeah, absolutely.
Small batch recruits, an uncommon here that just keeps growing the more you feed it. Like, wow.
Yep, absolutely. Dynamic one drops here in standard, especially the still the best one. I'm gonna stand by it, even though I'm a Magic boomer here. Llanowar Elf, obviously the best.
Overrated.
He probably compared to some of these other one drops, it's hard to argue with that on. Hard to argue with you on
Dies to
that
burst
one.
lightning. Dies to shock if anyone's playing those this weekend. I'm sure there are quite a couple.
Solid argument.
Oh, we got the liege back. Wilt Leaf Liege. All right, I'll get this right. Wilt Leaf Liege. I got it. Back on board here now, buffing the buddies in the air. So what's that? 6 damage now coming across.
Yeah, and that's all fine and good, but when you're attacking for 6 and gaining life, like I agree with Devin's assessment here. Like, just hold back, try to block, and go from there. But now we see 2 lands and 2 this town ain't big enough, it looks like. And, I mean, that hand is good enough, that's for sure.
Oh, boy. What's a good target on John's side of things to get the discount?
It depends on what the blockers are. I would probably just attack here and see what Devin does for blockers, because you can just bounce the liege, bounce your own nightmare, bounce a couple things just to make sure your scavenger doesn't die.
Yeah.
But that's the math John is doing right now. Be like, okay, start with the math of what happens if Devin blocks everything onto the scavenger. Can it die?
Because this is what, 7.
Yeah.
What is that? 7-5? Because it's a 2 on it base, gets 4 counters on it.
A
and
6-5 right now.
Oh, it's a 1-1.
Yep, exactly.
Right.
Yep.
Why did I think it was a 2-1?
Maybe that's why you think all the one drops are
Yeah,
so busted.
maybe.
You're adding power
I'm
to
just
these.
giving them extra power. Yeah, whoops. My bad.
All right, so this time it was on the token. So that is trying to deal the other token.
Yep. The bug off of the Overlord of the Mistborns. And we're going to go for it just in case. We do know that there are only 2, I believe, Wiltleaf Lieges in hand or in the main deck. So
in the main deck, yep, absolutely.
John Cuvier won't get got here again by Devin O'Donnell.
So here goes this scavenger being able to be put up to 7 toughness. The toughness is kind of the important thing right now.
Yeah.
And, that can just still be dealt with. So I'm not sure John's going to be able to attack with this. We'll see if it's worth it to John, but John does lose a lot if this Sheltered by Ghost goes away.
Yeah.
So I would still say advantage to Devin O'Donnell right now. And really all Doomwake has to find is one of the Shelter by Ghost or Get Lost to be able to deal with that creature.
Yeah.
Since John put all his eggs in one basket, which he does have to do right now for what it's worth. But
so, there's not major pressure for John either to get the swing in, get the life gain or anything like that. So it's on Devin now to find an answer for this big guy so that he can start putting the pressure down.
Exactly. And John does have another This Town Ain't Big Enough, so next turn can kind of do the same thing. Put 2 more counters on that scavenger plus bounce something of Devin's and replay the Hopeless Nightmare to make Devin discard. So just gets to keep going like that for a while, and then if he can ever find Storm Chaser's talent, you have value indefinitely as long as you play it the certain way.
Oh, Malira hits the board now. Okay. Overstated 2-drop here. First line of text talks about poison counters, but we don't really care too much about that. It's her exile ability that we are more focused on. So she's able to protect a creature, exiles herself, and then brings it back.
Yep, great card. Basically just reads a 2-mana 3/3 that can save a card.
Yep. Artifact or creature, so that's pretty sweet.
Yeah. And the Overlord there with the 1 counter that will be coming back next turn and will be another big problem. And John just picks up another land there.
Da-dum. Da-dum. I like to imagine that's the soundtrack for the impending counters as the last one ticks down. All right, so this is kind of the interesting spot with these creature-based strategies because they have removal, but not a whole lot of it because you want to have a proactive game plan if you're playing creature decks, which both of these decks are. So, yeah, it's just who gets the right piece of removal at the right time, as we're going to see This Town Ain't Big Enough now Bouncing the Overlord of the Mistborns and Hopeless Nightmare.
Really nice play. Only card in hand for
Sweet.
Devin, so make sure to discard that. Plus, you don't get counters because it's an enchantment. So John dealt with the impending problem.
Yep.
And now just has to find a way to sneak through damage. So we can put this on here. That would be a total of 9 toughness. Still able to trade with a lot of Devin O'Donnell's battlefield.
Yeah.
And then you get the Wilt Leaf Liege back. So I once again agree with John. Yeah. You just got to say go.
Eventually it'll get big enough, or eventually Devin will find a removal spell for it. So it's just a case of who gets there first.
Yep. And, Devin O'Donnell has a lot of great draws. All the collector cages, Sheltered by Ghost, Get Lost. That's a 3-of for Sheltered by Ghost, 2-of by Get Lost, and a 4-of for the Cage as just phenomenal cards to draw right now, as well as plenty of solid ones as well.
Yeah. Also playing, 3 Sandstorm Salvagers, 4 Sandstorm Salvagers, 4 Sanguine Evangelists. So a bunch more that the deck has to offer we just haven't seen as of yet.
Yeah, I like this list a lot as well. The Seraphic Steed. Seraphic Steed is another card we haven't seen a lot of, but I mean, if you ever played against that in OTJ Limited, you just lose.
Yep.
So
yep. I've been beaten by many angels coming out of a horse, so you know.
So that card seems sweet. A nice take on this deck list from Devin.
It's a unicorn.
There you go. Unicorn mount. So John did leave a card on top, so we got to think there is something nice there from John. And we'll see how he wants to play it. The other card was a land, so just has the card that he drew. Oof. An Overlord off the top there from Devin, so a great draw.
Nice. Okay.
Decided to not hold it for land number 7 there, and totally agree. You can't really do that against the Hopeless Nightmare deck.
Definitely don't want to be doing that. A recurring duress or, divest or whatever the other version is.
Raven's Crime.
That one, yeah.
Yeah.
Just make you chuck a thing? Yeah. You don't want to deal with that. So just be hellbent. Just have all your cards on the table and, start swinging eventually.
Okay, so decided not to play.
All right.
Decided not to play whatever the card is that John drew. Keeps a Nowhere to Run on top. And that is an instant trick at giving your creature +2/+2, as well as a removal spell. So we might see a Scavenger attack next turn for just a boatload of damage. Now, one thing Devin O'Donnell has on the table at any point is just block with the Melira and then sack it if the life total ever gets too dicey. So John has to keep that in mind. So
that is a sweet little play.
Yeah, so we might even see that Nowhere to Run, just hit Melira right away and just say whatever.
Just get off the board because, that is one of the wrinkles in the plan here of life gain, and you called it Nowhere to Run, trigger, gonna get counters. Paw Patch Recruit should trigger here too, so let's hope that Devin doesn't miss it. And Melira is the target. So
another Nowhere to Run is on top. So this Scavenger's definitely getting in there, and then we'll see what Devin O'Donnell wants to try to do if it's even possible. Let's do the math. There's 11. We got 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So you can still take it down in air quotes.
Yeah.
So this could be the turn that ends the game if it doesn't work out for Devin O'Donnell.
All right, Paw Patch is going to give the counter to itself. Melira is going to get got. Any consideration to exile it? Choose another target creature artifact when it is put into the graveyard this turn. I mean, yeah. Maybe just exile it anyway and pick something that you plan to block with?
I think the main thing is it's also a 5/5 right now. So
true.
That was a big blunder by John.
Yeah, you're right. Whoopsies.
That is a 5/5 with Leaf Liege. So I guess one punt deserves another.
Yeah, all right. We're even in the punt department now. Whoopsie.
Oh, boy.
I mean, to be fair, Wilt Leaf Liege isn't something you play very often. Where is this card even from? Is it reprinted in
it's been around way back in the day.
Foundations? Okay.
Maybe chat can help us. It's definitely a card that has been around for a long time. I used to play back in the day. I used to play it in a green-white aggro deck with Noble Hire, Kitchen Finks, Windbrisk Heights, you know? And this is basically that deck reincarnated.
Oh, boy.
Shadowmoor. Okay, thank you.
Good job, Chad. Now it's a run once again. Now, let's, I don't know, because the lieges don't buff themselves unless there's 2 of them on the board, then yes, they are. So how big is that idiot?
So that one will be able to be killed,
okay.
So we've done it.
We got there. We got there.
And now we'll see what John can do.
All right. Impending counter down. Pass the turn back. Jeez. John's a 2.
Yeah, I don't think there's a way out here because you can just attack and sack.
Malira, yeah.
Malira, yeah.
And then just pick something and then, whoo, yeah. Okay, so, you know, thankfully for Devin's side of things, missing those triggers with the paw patch early in the game didn't come back to punish him at all. So
I think they were just buddies, and John's like, you know what? You made that blunder. I'm gonna do one as well. We'll make it even, you know, and then we'll start from here. Nothing but clean magic from here on out.
Corey. Not when you are 7-0 in a tournament that could potentially get you onto the Pro Tour.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair.
This ain't no kitchen table magic. All right. Let's look at sideboards here now. Devin picking up the win there up against John Cuvier. So for the Esper Pixie side of things, what are you bringing in?
All right, so what do we want to bring in here? I like Lauren of the Third Path to be able to deal with some enchantments. Destroy Evil seems pretty decent as well for the Overlords. Outside of that, nothing seems overly exciting. Since John is on the play, Kaitos can easily come in. I think that looks like a card to me where John just has them on the play, doesn't have them on the draw if they're remotely playable. So I would probably start with that. The Shrouded Shepherd seems pretty decent as well. There's a decent amount of X1s. There's also a decent amount of ways to boost those creatures. So it is a little bit situational, but I think it's probably good enough to bring in there. So those would be the 4 cards I would be considering. And then looking up from Doomwake's side, bringing in here, I would easily like to split up this. We just saw how the stalemate just happened there. So if you're able to, in any way, turn your creatures sideways, get John's creatures that are untapped or vice versa. You know, I think I might bring in those Wiltleaf Lieges, believe it or not. I know. Shock and awe heard around the world. And outside of that, nothing stands out too much.
You know what's pretty cool? If the unicorn survives, that's such a cool way to tap down your entire board, barring the Seraphic Steed, and then playing Split Up to kill everything.
Absolutely, yeah. Saddle and Split Up is an unbelievable combo.
And
yeah, it's not like you need, you know, your Llanowar Elves. You know, you can saddle way more than 4, so you can just tap your whole board. It doesn't have to be like each creature has power 4 or anything like that. So.
Yeah, just as many as you want. Just chuck them into the boats, you know, if we're looking at a crew situation.
And I would assume the main thing for John is get all the Hopeless Nightmares out of there. I just don't think he can risk it when very clearly either these 2 are buddies or Devin made some content on the 4 Wiltleaf Liege. You know, that's kind of the disadvantage of being a content creator at some point. You know, people do see it. So you play against them, you do give away your secrets. Yep.
Well, you know what? It hasn't hurt Devin so far, sitting pretty at 7-0. And up a game here in round number 8. So.
And this is awesome. You know, like we see 2 of our 10 undefeated players playing the new hotness. You know, Celestia Tokens, I would say, is probably from 3 weeks ago. And this Esper Pixie, you know, kind of popped up about 2 weeks ago / last week. Started doing some really nice work in Magic Online challenges and stuff like that. So it's just really nice to see players pick up those decks, get enough reps in them, and, you know, change a lot of cards where these don't look like the stock lists that we saw, and just really shows that their work into this tournament is paying off.
Yeah. Absolutely. I imagine testing for standard or, you know, most formats at the moment is pretty fun.
It's awesome.
Yeah.
I mean, Magic is at a really great place. You know, all the formats are great.
Yep.
And, you know, all these SCG cons, they're going to have different formats across all of them. So, going to be a lot of fun. And all of
Sweet.
you should come out and play.
Yeah. Come play. Come hang out with
Yeah.
us. Come try and beat the content creators that you enjoy watching on stream.
This hand looks great.
Ooh, nice. Let's
Yep.
go. Let's boogie. Concealed Courtyard to kick things off. No one drop.
Okay, maybe no blue. I was going to say, if we start with Storm Chaser Talon, it looks awesome. But no blue to start it off, which still reasonable.
Yeah, okay. Just getting rid of the Llanowar Elves. That art is terrifying, just by the way. It kind of looks like a cross-section of the elf.
The Llanowar Elf? Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. Art's terrifying, and the card itself is that terrifying.
Meh.
So.
It's meh.
You
Pop
a
Patch
Llanowar-
Recruit. Woo! Rabbit, go!
Are you a Llanowar Elf hater?
I mean, they're fine.
Ugh.
I hate seeing them turn 1, I'll tell you that much.
Will you grab this knife out of my back real quick, Ailey?
Oh, boy. Hey, Pixie!
So as it stands, though, it looks like John doesn't really have any great follow-ups unless we can get an ability to add blue. These Verges are great, but if you just have Concealed Courtyard and
Yeah.
lands like that, they don't help you out. That's another blue card, so
Oof.
they're sheltered by Ghost here. But outside of that, John looks to be completely out of castable spells.
Yeah, nope. We definitely need a basic land type as Sandstorm Salvager. Who put all the alliteration in this set? I wish to have words with you. I just want to
Wish
talk.
words.
I just want to talk. That's all.
So
Oh boy.
John does just have all blue cards in hand, so right now can't cast anything, but if you were to just top deck an island, you have 2 blue sources and everything's online and
Oh,
big
yeah.
advantage to John. But this draw step is really going to be the difference in the game.
Yep.
It has to be there right now.
So John in a bit of a pickle at the moment as an Overlord of the Mist Moors. His cost for its impending. That's Seacrum Coast. It's blue eventually.
Yeah, that's a terrible land. I mean, it's good because there's blue, but
Not right
not
now.
great. Not great at all.
He's going to be putting a lot of stock in this here Pixie, gaining him some
Yeah.
life.
And with the Flyers coming down on defense, you're not able to get through with this Pixie to start gaining some life. At least next turn, John is able to do
Yeah.
Fear of Isolation.
Yeah.
Nowhere to run. I mean, that's fine. But if Devin has a big turn here, big trouble for John fans.
Yep. Also now has to keep in oh boy. Big, more trouble. Rabbits are here. Paw Patch Recruit. ×2 hit the board, so anything now, i.e. Noise Run, is just going to be putting 2 counters on creatures here.
Yeah.
And there's also the Sandstorm Salvager that can put counters down too. I'll
Yeah.
get there.
This is probably the best Paw Patch Recruit deck I've seen.
Cool.
Like,
It's cool.
not only do you have the Sandstorm Salvagers to pump, you get 2 bodies to help with the cage. You know, you go so wide that, you know, spot removal is already not great, but they make it even worse, those little rabbits. So, just this seems like a really tough matchup for John.
You gotta kill the rabbits.
Yeah, and I mean, John's deck is constantly targeting creatures.
Yeah.
So this style of Celestia tokens is really good against that. It's really good against
Yeah.
Amir. Those are the decks Devin wants to be playing against over and over. You just don't want to play against Sunfall and Domain. But
Yep.
to be fair, you know, that Devin's kind of made it past the point where he's going to start playing against the random decks. When you're at 7-0, you're pretty safe from those most of the time. Except, of course, our Azorius Omniscience deck.
Yeah, because, you know, in this kind of situation, you would love non-targeted removal. You'd love to see a Wrath of
Yeah.
God style effect, but, you know, being a creature-based deck, that's not something you're going to be playing.
Yep. And right now, the Shrouded Shepherd, the only real sweeper style of effect that John would have, is kind of off the table. You know, it looked really good, and it would have been good up until that last turn, but
Yeah.
Devin had that on his radar and made sure that there's 2 toughness, and now he's feeling real great about it.
Yeah. I think the only one that's 1 toughness is the original Paw Patch.
The original Paw Patch and the Salvager.
Sure, yeah.
But yeah, I mean, look at this. Like, sure, you get a Shelter by Ghost. You deal with a 3 toughness flyer, but distribute 2 +1/+1 counters, pending Devin remembers.
Yeah. Oy. These recruits, man, they are rough.
Yeah. And all this is saying for John gets to get in there with the Pixie and gain a little bit of life.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's a great thing to do, but still, John is very far behind in this
Yep.
game.
I mean, it's got a 2-3 up against an army of little idiots that just keep getting bigger and bigger, so.
Yeah.
We haven't seen the cage yet. I want to see cool cage things.
Yeah, Devin so far just hasn't needed it. Just playing good. And the thing is, Cage is good on its own, whether or not you can trigger the ability.
Yeah.
And all the creatures that Devin's playing are good on their own, too, you know?
Yeah, they are.
The fact that most of these style decks that kind of cheat into play one of these really, really big things, most of the time it sucks to draw the really big thing without the payoff.
Yep.
But with the Overlords having that impending payoff, you know, that kind of get out of jail free card thing, it just ends up being no cost whatsoever. So I think the Celestia Tokens deck is really, really strong.
It's sweet. Here comes the Liege, and here comes the army. As Devin O'Donnell looks to be turning everything he possibly can sideways, barring the Sandstorm Salvager. I got there. Ha-ha!
You nailed it.
Thank you.
All of these are boosted +1/+1.
Crikey.
Plus that Overlord's going to go down to 1, so that's going to be a new problem here pretty soon. A lot of bad news bears here for John fans.
Very, very many problems. And there just seem to be more and more just coming out the top of the deck there for Devin, so
yeah,
he's got to be feeling pretty good at this point.
And the thing is, with John's hand, he's basically never going to run out of steam.
Mm-hmm.
But the things he's doing is just nowhere near as impactful as what Devin's doing. Like, that's awesome with the Esper Pixie deck. You never run out of steam. You're always killing a creature, maybe adding a 2/3 body to the battlefield like every single turn. And against most decks, that's going to be good.
Yeah.
Or if we were at closer to parity, but John's just too far behind, and there's no real catch-up mechanism from this Esper Pixie deck.
No, there's no board wipe. You know, there's no way to prevent the engine that's ticking here.
Yeah.
Humming along nicely for Devin O'Donnell. Jeez. You got Overlord coming in next turn. Paw Patch is putting counters on everything. The Liege buffing stuff. You got the Llama Land as well.
Llama Land.
It
I
is.
like
Look,
that.
there's a llama in the picture. It is literally a 3/3 llama.
Okay, I wasn't questioning you. I just think it's funny.
It is funny.
And it does pump the team as well. So, I mean, that is 3 power plus pumps the entire rest of the team.
Uh-huh.
I believe it's green-white as well.
It's green and white, so it itself is a 5/5.
Yep.
Gross.
So that thing attacking alone is plus 10 power. No big deal.
NBD. Oh, boy. Yeah, if I'm in John's seat, I'm thinking about round 9, honestly.
Yeah, I mean, when you're 7-0,
Oy.
like, no matter what, your day is going to be good.
Yeah,
7-2 is, you got to be feeling pretty strong. You can still make the top 8. You might even be able to lose a round depending on how the math works. We'll see all that stuff tomorrow. But losing the last 2, no matter what your record is, even if the best case scenario of 7-2, you still feel terrible.
Yeah. Alrighty. We have a land down Shadowy Back Street. Top of the deck, what you got for us? Whatever it is, it's staying put. So hopefully something to get John and Cuvier back into this matchup.
So that land does allow the Verge to tap for blue mana as well. So now there's 2 blue, but yeah, it's a small victory here for John Cuvier fans.
Small victory for the blue mages out there.
Yes.
2 blue. That's all you need. Oh, boy.
This really feels like a black-white deck to me with kind of how it plays.
Yeah.
This kind of small creatures
Grindy.
that have, you know, infinite removal. It feels like a black-white value deck.
Yeah. I mean, we've seen the Demir variant of it, so
Yep.
I wouldn't be surprised if we see an Orzhov version make its appearance sometime soon.
Absolutely. Nowhere to Run is one of the very, very key cards.
Yeah.
Bouncing that kind of removal spell over and over
Yeah.
is definitely something that makes this deck tick.
And just negating ward and hexproof.
Yeah.
That's pretty relevant in this format.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Pretty much killed Snakeskin Veil immediately.
Rip Snakeskin Veil. Alrighty, where are we going here, John? Yeah, you can see he's even shaking his head. He's like, I don't know, man. Gonna get some life, I guess. Up to 13 he goes. Down to 11 goes Devin.
And there is a Lauren of the first path as an option here to be able to deal with that Overlord. It's not bad. Definitely a solid choice. I think no matter what, you have to deal with that.
Yeah.
If you have the choice. Like, there might be a situation where John is just too far behind and has to deal with the other stuff first.
Yeah. Because the Overlord doesn't attack
Exactly.
next turn.
Exactly. So you can deal with it the turn after,
Yeah.
but then the Paw Patch does get the counter spread to something. So this is the one turn to take away the 2+1/+1 counters, but you might have to also just deal with the Wilt Leaf Liege. Because you know John's factoring in all this math with the land as well being animated.
The Paw Patch recruits just look at all the blue players being like, look at me.
Yeah.
I'm the counterspell now.
Back in my day, we played a 1-mana 2/1 with no abilities, and we liked it. Savannah Lions was good enough.
Meow. Hey, it's back in standard now, isn't it?
Yeah, I
it's
guess,
in Foundations. There's some cool cat decks you can make, all right?
Definitely.
I wonder if anyone was brave enough to bring it this weekend.
Yeah, there's just, you look at Savannah Lions and then you look at Paw Patch Recruiter and you're like,
One
all
of
right.
these things is not like the other.
We had to walk uphill both ways to our LGS back then, okay?
Oh, Corey. Turn passes back eventually here. Tough one here for John Cuvier, doing his damnedest to stay in this. Giving the blocker now, the Sheltered by Ghosts, to, just stave off some damage, get some more life if Devin decides we're turning things sideways here.
Yeah, and even if that Fear of Isolation gets to trade with something and gain 3, Devin's still just dealing so much more damage than the lifelink negates, so that's what we're doing the math here as well. Like, even the Scavenger gets to be up to 3 power if we attack with the Llama Land, as you were saying. I like that. And so that's a thing. That's a thing to me. When you're attacking with all your creatures that are going to be stronger than your opponent's creatures, the attack's good.
I'm a llama again. 10 points to whoever can tell me where that is from, and I will buy you an adult beverage.
The Emperor's New Groove, right?
Yeah,
Yes.
you get it. Good job.
That's my favorite movie. I'm not going to
It's
lie. I love
so
it.
No touchy. No touchy. This is essentially what the Paw Patch recruit's saying, as we are swinging in for quite a fair chunk of John Cuvier's life total here. 2 blockers in the way. Doing some quick math.
Yep, putting those dice down to represent the power.
Good job. Thank you. You guys rock.
Wow. Okay,
That's
just
a lot.
just 26 damage coming in. Let's do the.
Yeah, 26.
You can negate 9 of it by blocking one of the 6 power creatures with the life linker, and then you can negate another 6. So you can negate 15. You can take 15 off the table there. So I believe that's 11. So John can live with 2 chump blocks. As my quick math there,
Yeah.
could be wrong, but.
Because what he gains 3, so effectively it's 16.
Yeah, you gain 3 and you prevent 12, so you prevent 15. So you still take 11, go down to 2, and I think that's basically the force block. I don't think John has the ability to kill anything.
I'm gonna block the llama.
Yep.
Sheesh.
Yeah, that doesn't kill the llama, so it doesn't make sense to block a 5-power creature when you could block a 6. So I think John's going to do the math and just realize it's double chump block. You block the 2 6-powers, you untap, and you
Concede.
you get ready for the next round.
Yeah. Jeez, like this has been an absolute beating, and like I'm not going to sugarcoat it here. Okay?
Yeah.
John has been on the back foot the entire time. This list is sweet. It can do stuff,
Yeah.
but this Selesnya tokens list in the hands of Devin O'Donnell is brutal.
Yeah, it was that turn where John had to have an untapped blue source to play anything, drew that Seacrum Coast, did nothing. I still think Devin O'Donnell would have been ahead even if we would have top decked a blue land, but, when you miss, the game just ended there.
Owie, owie, owie.
Yeah. So John should be going down to 2.
Draw, fist bump. Is what I'm predicting
Yeah,
here.
I think that's the last thing to figure out is be like, is it going to be a fist bump or a handshake?
Yeah, high five.
Exactly, yeah.
No, elbow bump. I don't know. What else do people do these days?
And just a great showing from the Selesnya
Yeah.
tokens list. I really
Sick.
like Devin's list too. There's just a lot of good creatures that aren't just token creatures, you know?
Yeah.
They're just good cards.
Does that even do anything? I don't think so. It takes a thing, it gains some life. It's still not going to be enough.
I mean, not with the creature land as well. You know, that's just,
Oh, yeah,
it's
yeah.
just too much.
Yeah, there's 2 of them. 2 llamas.
Yep.
Yep, that's going to be it. So John Cuvier falling to an extremely powerful showing from
Yeah.
a Selesnya tokens list in the hands of Devin O'Donnell, who goes to 8-0, baby. Woo!
8-0, going to be one of the 5 remaining players that are going to
Sweet.
have an undefeated record. So big congrats to Devin O'Donnell. And John, you know, still doing great. X and 1,
Yeah,
playing one of the
sure.
decks of the tournament so far. Still good thing for both these players.
We got more magic for you, friends, so we're not going to waste
More.
any time. Let's just jump straight back into it and show you our next feature match here. It is Jim Davis.
Anyone ever heard of him?
I think he streams.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, he's got a cute kid and a cool dog
Any
named
Jim,
Karn.
any Jim Davis fans here in chat?
Yeah.
Looks like we are in game number 3 here, so we are heading into Jeskai Convoke against Esper Pixie. Not exactly how this matchup plays out, but I was talking to Ross Merriam before the event, who's also playing Jeskai Convoke, has played the deck a lot, and said he made the choice between Azorius Convoke or Azorius Aggro and Jeskai Convoke because it has a better Esper Pixie matchup. He didn't say it has a good matchup, but he said it has a better one out of those 2, so we shall see.
Alrighty. Well, Warden of the Inner Sky to kick things off here on one side of the battlefield for Jim Davis, as well as the Optimistic Scavenger for Jonathan Johnson.
Yeah, so another Esper Pixie deck. These were the 2 undefeated Esper Pixie players that we saw on camera here, and they just so happen to be playing against everyone's favorite streamer here.
Oh, let's torch the tower, get rid of that critter before it starts putting counters on things, and a second copy of Warden of the Inner Sky. Now, I was talking about powerful 1-drops earlier. This one's pretty cool, but it's not looking super hot in the meta as it stands. It's a 1/2 that can get bounced.
It's still a great card. You know, it's got a lot of utility.
Tithing Blade.
And if we were able to find an artifact plus a the make a 3 goblins.
Oh yeah, that'd be
card,
sweet.
and I think that might be what we're saying. Okay, no.
Okay. Mockingbird as well as the Novice Inspector, so we get 3 things.
Yep, so you get a bunch of stuff. You're able to tap those clues plus the creature sideways, and all of a sudden, this 1-drop that didn't look great is going to look excellent. Yeah.
For now.
For now, yes.
Yeah. Tithing Blade getting some value before all this nonsense happened in forcing the sacrifice. I doubt we'll see a crafted creature. You never know. Stranger things have happened.
Probably not. The one thing we really would want to see for any Jonathan Johnson fans is nowhere to run now to be able to deal with the 2/3. There's also this town ain't big enough later to bounce that if that ends up being the plan. But the one thing you always want to be doing against the Convoke decks is just whenever you can shrink their battlefield,
Kill things.
Do it. Exactly. It's not rocket science playing against Convoke. You need to just always kill creatures because if they get a critical mass of creatures and they get Night Air and Avios, you're going to have a bad time.
Yeah, that thing is a beater, especially if it finds, you know, the big finisher in the deck.
Yeah, Night Air.
Immodane's Recruiter.
Or that, yeah.
Yep. That will beat you to death very, very quickly.
Absolutely. Talk about another limited mythic uncommon that just was so unbeatable in the set that transfers over to standard so well. Shelter by Ghost being the newest one.
Yeah. Uncommons are cool too. You don't have to play all rares. Woo! Oh boy. Still pretty some work here to do for Jonathan Johnson as we get the Cave of Koilos down. Excuse me. We're going to see the bounce and we're going to see the recost of Nowhere to Run. So fear of isolation killing something.
Bad news for Jim, just sacking that clue. That really tells you a lot about what his hand was. And tapping the Night Errant for just 1 here. Oof. Not ideal. But
0 drops in the deck.
yeah.
Oh, man. So got a Spyglass Siren, at least.
Yep. Not bad.
Yeah, could be worse, yeah. So turn passes back. A very, very sad night indeed for Jim Davis. Hopefully not a sad night without the K. But we are going to see another Hopeless Nightmare. Force a discard.
Discards the card he drew, so I'm not sure if Jim doesn't have any other cards in hand. If so, he definitely Oh, it does not look Like it. So
Hellbent.
mulliganed a
Nice.
lot, it looks like. But the good news for Jim Davis fans is the 4/4 body against this Esper Pixie deck is really what you want. There's a lot of ways to deal with the 3/3, but not as many with dealing with the 4/4.
Novice Inspector, a Clue, a Knight Errant, and a Dream for Jim Davis to remain undefeated in this tournament. Spotlight Foundations here in Atlanta. Thank you, everyone, for staying with us so far. We are in round 8. There is still one more round after this to go,
Yep.
so get comfy. We're going to be here for a while more.
Exactly. And no matter what, we're going to have 2 undefeated players next round to watch.
Whee!
So no matter what, we're going to be seeing who our 9-0 players are. So this is, kind of my favorite part of day 1 for sure. You know, the watching all the players that get the perfect record at the end of it or make it into day 2, especially just walking around the hall. You feel that electric energy on the last round of the players that are just like relieved to make it, high-fiving their friends. You know, it is really about the gathering when it comes to that stuff.
You hear a couple expletives as well, which is always fun. As No Way to Run, which is not fun, is going to help out Fear of Isolation here, which is blocking the Knight Errant.
Yep.
So that's a pretty clean exchange there for Jonathan.
Very clean. Let's see if Jim has something like a Get Lost or something like that. Really not playing any in the main, so no real instance. Does have Torch the tower as the one thing that Jim can do to deal with this before damage resolves, and that would be the best case scenario here for Jim. Of course, there's some post-board stuff as well.
Maybe protect the negotiators, perhaps?
Yeah, I don't think I'm bringing in that against the 1-mana, 2-mana deck.
Yeah, for sure.
Maybe, but I would definitely be more inclined to bring in Torch, even though they don't seem great either. So, but Jim is giving a big thing, so must have something.
Or he's very good at bluffing.
That's true. Yeah.
Oh, well, that is going to resolve. So Knight Errant of Eos hits the bin. Fear of Isolation sticks around here for Jonathan Johnson. And now things are starting to look a little bad here for Jim Davis.
Yeah, ever since that turn 3 where he just sacked a clue, you just really got the vibe that Jim's hand was bad. And, we didn't see exactly when they started and their mulligan process, but it kind of seems like Jim mulliganed at least a 5 here.
Yep. Jonathan just getting in for 2, passing the turn back. I mean, I say we might not see the Tithing Blade craft, but hey, we could if Jonathan's got nothing else to do.
Yeah, absolutely. I think he would even be more inclined to sack the Hopeless Nightmare at this very moment, but we shall see.
Novice Inspector getting in, doing its part. Second a clue, playing a land.
Novice Inspector getting in there. Some proclaim best card in Standard. It's a good one. Don't get me wrong.
Listen, you've proclaimed many cards best card
I
in
said
Standard.
someone does.
Someone.
I didn't say me.
Okay, all right, fine, sure. In for 2 again in this race. Currently, Jonathan Johnson is winning. Now it's going to be a case of who can do the cool thing or at least find the most impactful thing next as another Fear of Isolation hits the board. Let's return something and get this creature. Or are we just going to go for the Hopeless Nightmare? What's a...
So for playing a card called Fear of Isolation, Jonathan is really trying to isolate himself into being the only player that's undefeated right now. I don't know. Maybe a flavor fail?
You worked hard for that one, didn't
I
you?
really did. I really did.
Resolute Reinforcements hit the board now, so it provides some extra power and some bodies here. Can we get a good Knight Errant of Eos? Please, something.
Yeah, because as it stands, there's not much time left here from Jim. Convoke is another deck that doesn't play very well from behind. You really need to be kind of going pedal to the metal. There is Shelter by Ghost. That's probably the best thing to be doing to catch yourself up. But even if Jonathan is able to attack, put Jim down to 6, and like you said, flip that blade, that's already maybe too much to come back from.
Hopeless Nightmare gets sacrificed, so Scry 2. Let's see if Jonathan can find anything to help him accelerate towards a win here. Oh boy. Things are getting hairy here for Jim Davis. As we see the Pixie hit the board, it's going to return the Hopeless Nightmare. Excuse me, the No Way to Run. That's going to kill off a creature. And we're going to get an attack in here for 4. So, Jim Davis, now or never, sir.
Yep.
Top of the deck, be nice.
It's looking like this is the handshake turn here from Jim.
Oof.
Shelter by Ghost, I think, is the only thing that allows him to play another turn.
Taking a look here at this Pixie.
Of course, Jim Davis is pretty much trained up at the Pro Tours as well, so we'll be seeing him in Chicago for sure. Has had a great couple of years.
Yeah, he has. He's gotten so close to being in like the top 8s or top 4s of world championships and stuff like that. So
he like XO'd, I think, like 2 Pro Tours and then maybe just didn't have the best day 2s. But I mean, XOing a day at a Pro Tour is unreal. It's so hard.
Crazy. Mockingbird hits the board and is going to return the Novice Inspector. We're digging here for as many answers as we possibly can find.
Love it.
Mockingbird, a copy of the Pixie. So here comes the Inspector. We'll get a clue, we'll draw a card, we'll hope like heck it's something useful, but Jim having a quick think before he does that.
Yep, absolutely. Just trying to think to his outs, you know, playing to his outs here. He knows the chance of him winning here is, you know, less than 1% or whatever, but he's trying to think, and his out is Torch the Tower is what he's determined there. It is what it looks like with leaving that 1 red mana open.
Okay, Warden of the Inner Sky, tap some stuff, get a counter, draw a card.
So he's technically not dead because he can block with the 2/2 flyer to the Pixie, but dead to basically anything.
And that is going to do it. So getting the blocker out of the way, drawing the card, swinging in there. Jim Davis falls down to 7-1. Jonathan Johnson, 8-0 with Esper Pixie.
Only undefeated player with the Esper Pixie deck. Condolences to Jim, still looking great at 7-1. But big congrats to Jonathan Johnson, playing next round for the undefeated.
Woo! No pressure.
Woo! Yeah, that feels real good if you can end the day as one of the, there'll be either 2 or 3 9-0 players. So, you know, you got to be feeling excellent at your chances to make the top 8 going into the next day.
Well, as you mentioned, there are 9 rounds to play, friends. Esper Pixie might just be the deck of the tournament if it can continue showing this sort of resiliency and just being able to keep a board clear like that. That was pretty impressive.
And it looks super fun. Like, it just looks like an absolute blast to play. You're not a believer?
No.
Oh, come on. Come on. You can't just play Gruul all the time.
It's too fiddly for me, okay?
Sure,
what am I going to say? Like, I just want to, less thinks, more wins, you know?
See, I'm more about game action, game action, game action, game action. Even if I lose, at least I took game actions. The only thing better than that is game action, draw a card. Game action, draw a card, you know?
I'll tell you why I don't like the decks with too many fiddly things going on.
Okay.
Because I keep getting timed out in MTGO, all right? I'm not fast enough. Anyway.
You got to work on your skills.
I know. I gotta play more. Anyway, we've got a pretty cool deck tech to show you, friends, so stick with us, and we'll be right back after this.
Hello, welcome back to the sideboard here at Magic Spotlight Foundations, part of SCGATL Atlanta. I'm Nick Miller alongside Ross Merriam. It's been too long.
It has been. It's good to be back, though, Nick. Lovely to see your face again and to be here on the sideboard.
We've got deck techs coming to you. Standard's the name of the game. You've been creating content, running a Patreon, streaming all that jazz, promoting Jeskai Convoke. It looks pretty good. You and Jim are playing it and both have solid records.
Yeah, Jim is still playing his round 7 match at 6-0. I'm 5-2, so 11-2 combined on the day so far, and Jim 5-0'd with it yesterday in one of the big side events, the Reese Qs. So yeah, really strong record between the two of us, and I think Jeskai Convoke is one of the best decks in Standard.
Now tell us why, and let's go through the history of this deck, because I recall this deck popping up as like a Pioneer deck first, and now it's making its legs in Standard.
Yeah, it was a Pioneer deck first, then it was a Standard deck when Voldaren and Epicure was still in Standard. With Epicure rotating, we've had to really stretch the mana base. You're basically splashing just for Spyglass Siren, but Spyglass Siren is awesome. And really just one of the best cards in the deck. It's better than Novice Inspector. It is well worth the splash. And as far as the deck why it's good, it really comes down to the Standard environment being built around Dimir and red decks. And so a lot of the decks are filled with spot removal to fight these red decks. And Jeskai Convoke is an aggro deck that matches up very well against spot removal. All of your creatures generate extra material. Novice Inspector and Spyglass Siren generate a clue or a map. Resolute Reinforcements, Gleeful Demolition, multiple bodies. Knight Errant of Eos generates card advantage immediately. Sometimes even Imidane's Recruiter, you cast train troops as the game goes along.
Yep.
So this is a deck that really lines up well against spot removal. And then while the red matchups are, I would say you're slightly behind in them. I don't think they're as bad as they used to be, because the red decks, if you remember around the World Championships, were more sort of combo pump spell red decks with Leyline, and that was a nightmare matchup.
Yeah.
But the more normalized red decks, when you have spot removal and sheltered by ghosts, you can win a reasonable portion of the time, and you're very, very good against all of the go for the throat cut down decks.
Yeah, and we saw Jim on camera take down the mono white tokens deck and just walk through 2 Sunfalls in multiple games, and being able to do that is pretty impressive from an aggro deck.
That was kind of the kicker that's really sold me on this deck. So, when you can beat the top tier of the metagame, those black removal mid-range decks, and you're okay against the next tier, those red aggro decks, that's fine. But a lot of people are scared off of Convoke because they don't think you're good against the other section of the metagame, which is mono white tokens and domain, those sweeper, control ramp decks. But this deck can actually grind through sweepers pretty well if you can play carefully, sequence carefully. And one of the important cards that I have that a lot of other lists don't have that help there is Painter's Studio Defaced Gallery, a card that really helps you play through those sweepers and grind in those matchups.
Yeah. We'll go through the cards here. We've got all the early 1-drops that let you start doing your thing: Novice Inspector, Spyglass Siren, as you call it out, Resolute Reinforcements, and then Gleeful Demolition, kind of doing 2 things at once here, giving you creatures, but also paying off your earlier cards.
Yeah, paying off your inspectors and your sirens. So that's kind of the base of the deck, is just ways to spew permanents onto the battlefield, artifacts and creatures. Ideally, you want to have at least 3 creatures on the battlefield by the end of turn 2 every game.
Then you have your payoffs. Most importantly, I would say Knight Errant of Eos.
Knight Errant's the most powerful one. I think Warden might be the most overlooked one, because Warden, kind of what both of them do. Knight Errant does this a little bit as well. It'll let you dig through your deck, but it only digs for certain creatures, and if your opponent has some removal and you're not able to fully convoke it, sometimes you can't even get like Imidane's Recruiter. But Warden lets you dig through your deck for anything you need. Find your removal spells, find more ways to generate bodies if you've had to survive a cheap sweeper that your Warden lived through, like a Malicious Eclipse or something like that. And then Warden also really helps you close out games once it gets flying.
That was the thing that really impressed me in the matches I saw.
Yeah, you have a lot of games where your opponent is able to survive your first burst. That turn 3 recruiter, they take 11 damage or something like that. They trade off some creatures. They play a big creature. Maybe you have the removal spell, maybe you don't. Now you're trying to get scrappy, and you've got to attack some of your creatures and chump attack some of them. But when you have Warden and also Spyglass Siren, underrated aspect there with the flying, that evasion helps you get those last few points of damage in.
And then the thing that helps with that, as we'll move on to this other section here, is the Gateway, or the
Case of the Gateway Express.
Gateway Express, and then these other Anthem-esque abilities.
Yeah, you want a certain number of Anthems. I have 8 in the main with 4 Recruiter, 3 Case, and then the 1 Defaced Gallery. Usually trims on them after sideboarding because your opponent brings in more interaction. But yeah, those really help you push damage, and Case being a removal spell as well is very helpful, because decks like this have to play a ton of creatures. In order to consistently put 3 bodies on the battlefield by the end of turn 2, your deck has to be at least half creatures. If you count Gleeful Demolition, this deck list is 31 in the main, and with 22 lands, you only have so many slots to play with, and you need Anthems and you need removal. So having a card that plays double duty really helps fill out the deck.
Right. Then the rest of the deck is a little bit more removal. We've got the old Mockingbird. This card is in every deck now, it seems like.
Yeah, and it helps you. Most of the time you're just copying your own Novice Inspectors and Spyglass Sirens, getting more artifacts for your Gleeful Demolitions, more permanents for your Wardens. But the addition of flying is great. Sometimes you're copying your Imidane's Recruiter to get a second Anthem when you need it. Sometimes you're copying their stuff. I've copied Ibiza, I've copied Overlords, I've copied Flood Pits Drowners. The versatility there is really important. It makes it, it's a card that functions in the early game as an additional 1-drop when you need it, but in the late game, it's now sort of like a Snapcaster mage. You just look at the battlefield instead of the graveyard, see, oh, what do I want now?
Yeah.
And you can pick and choose, and it gives the deck a little bit of a burst of individual raw power that decks with this low of a curve normally don't have.
Yeah, we saw Jim on camera copy Enduring Innocence, the white creature, and I was just like, that's pretty nice.
Yeah, that's a very, very nice one.
Other removal here, Sheltered by Ghosts, and then you have this red Draft Chaff here.
I'm only playing a singleton Clockwork Percussionist. For a long time, I was on Yoshin Frontliner in that spot. I moved over to percussionist, and honestly, I'm not sure I was right to do so. A lot of other lists play 2 or 3 percussionists if they're lighter on Mockingbirds. I landed on 2 Mockingbird, 1 percussionist. You know, when percussionist works the way you want it to, it's great. Sometimes it's the extra artifact for Gleeful. Against red decks, you're playing as block and race, and you don't lose value when you're chump blocking with it. I found in practice, it often doesn't work out that way, but it's still a reasonable card. The haste can be relevant to help you get to solve case, so 1 is fine.
Take us through the sideboard. What are we eyeing here? We've got Protect the Negotiators, seems pretty good against sweeper decks.
Yeah, it's good. So it's very good against mono white. One of the issues is counter spells aren't as good against the Domain Zur decks because they have all the caverns for their overlords. So I'm a little lighter on counter spells than most decks. Some have upwards of 4 or 6. I have 3 Protect the Negotiators and that's it. And instead I'm trying to grind through their sweepers with more copies of Painter Studio to Face Gallery. I also have additional copies of Sheltered by Ghosts. A lot of players have those main. I went with more Torch the Towers in the main. To me, Torch the Tower is the best removal spell in Standard. It's great in this deck. You have tons of fodder to bargain with it. It's awesome against the mirror. It's awesome against the red decks. It's good in the mirror. So I went with 2 Torches main, and of course the other 2 in the sideboard. Practically every list has 4 in the 75, but maintaining them I think is important.
What are we targeting with Split Up? Because this is an interesting card.
Yeah, it comes in Convoke Mirrors primarily because it's honestly in this deck pretty easy to control because you have Knight Errant that you can tap your creatures to outside of combat, and Warden. Warden's the big one.
Yeah.
So if your opponent has all untapped creatures, you can tap yours main phase and split up and end up very far ahead on the exchange. If your opponent has all tapped creatures, then you can just untap and cast split up like you normally would, untapped, before you attack. So it really helps in the Convoke Mirrors where the battlefields really flood out. I also like sometimes bringing them in on the draw in red matchups, in particular Boros Mice, because it's a clean way to answer creatures that have been sheltered by ghosts and get around Shardmage's Rescue. And sometimes the red decks will get ahead of you if they have 1-drop every draw with a cheap removal spell that keeps you off your Knight Errant for a turn. And so Split Up can help you catch up from behind in those matchups. But I don't, sometimes I don't bring it in at all. It kind of depends on my opponent's build. But sometimes I'll bring in a couple, mainly for the Convoke Mirrors.
Anything else to call out here?
Really just Torch and Tower. It's the reason. So I've played Convoke decks of all stripes, and the Azorius build I think is also quite good. But that deck lacks good interaction. It just has Sheltered by Ghosts and maybe some. I have Soul Partitions in the sideboard. All the other white removal is pretty bad, and I even think Sheltered's a little overrated. But Torch and Tower is just absolutely incredible. Just the best removal spell in Standard. So good across a wide spectrum of matches, and I've been very happy with the main deck copies today.
How you feeling?
I'm feeling pretty good. I'm 5-2. I'm still in it, to win the tournament. I did a little bit of math pre-tournament. I think X2-1 is going to be the line, so I'm right up against it. But deck's performing well. Can't be too upset about the way the matches have gone, and very happy to see Jim doing well with it as well.
All right, to wrap up, how do you feel about Foundation Standard? Because we are here at Magic Spotlight Foundations.
I think Standard, pre the unbans and stuff that's happened with Modern, is the most fun format, competitive format in Magic right now. And I think things are starting to get just a little bit stale with Dimir Midrange and Gruul. But that said, we just had the Esper Pixie deck show up and inject a new life into the format. And the dawn of that Esper Pixie deck has caused people to explore all other avenues of this town ain't big enough, Storm Chasers talent decks. And then we have the Omniscience deck that arose like last night, or the night before the tournament. And so it appears that there's still more space in this metagame to be explored, and that's a great sign. So I think we'll be perfectly fine riding out Standard until Aether Drift gives us a few more cards to play with.
Awesome. Well, enjoy the Standard action here on stream. Ross, thanks for joining me. Stay tuned for more here at Magic Spotlight Foundations.
That Nick Miller is pretty good at interviewing, I must say. I heard he's a professional caster now, though.
I heard so too.
Yeah. A man of all traits, of all talents.
Jack of all trades.
There we go.
Master of much. Especially renaming deck lists in Melee because people put them in as the wrong things
so if you
all the
ever
time.
put in the wrong deck list, that's who has to fix them right there. So not cool, y'all. Ross Merriam at 5-2 though still has a decent chance here.
Yeah.
Not sure how he did this round, but yeah, you win 2 more there and you feel really good. And Ross has been playing that deck a ton. He's been making a lot of content about it, so make sure to check all that stuff out.
Pretty sweet list indeed. Friends, as it stands, we're waiting for one more match to be reported in this round. Then all of our players are going to get settled in for the final round of the day. So we're going to take a short break, go get a beverage, come back, sit down, and enjoy the last of SCG Con's Spotlight Foundations round of day 1. See you soon. Welcome back to coverage of Magic Spotlight Foundations here in Atlanta, Georgia. I'm Ailey Loney alongside Corey Baumeister, and it is round 9, everybody. And it's going to be a fun one indeed. We have a couple of undefeated players looking to remain so. Let's take a quick look at our standings here, Corey, before we jump into our feature match.
Yeah, let's take a look at it here. One look here. Woo. That's not right. Those are our 7-0 players.
Rounds.
Yeah.
We'll fix that. You didn't see a thing. Nope.
We'll take a look at the spoilers here after round number 8 if we got them ready to go. But we do have just the 5 undefeated players. So we'll be seeing, 2 players that are going to be X and O fighting for 2 9-0s and then possibly a third. So we'll have at most 3 9-0s. So, yeah.
Well, let's take a look then at our feature match, which is going to be, drumroll please, Scott McNamara, Rock and Demir Enchantments versus Nathan Andress on Mono White Tokens.
Yeah, absolutely. So, that Mono White is a deck that we haven't really seen at all so far. It's a deck that really dominates all the red decks. That's not what we're up against here with this Mono White deck. So it's going to be a bit of a tricky matchup. Sounds like our players are ready, though. Let's head on in to the action.
We'll talk about the deck list as we go along. We have a quick look at the standings before we jump into the matchup, though. There we go. There are our 5 players sitting at 8-0. Nathan Andress, William Thompson, Scott McNamara, Jonathan Johnson, and Devin O'Donnell.
Absolutely. A lot of players looking great here. All these players are looking really good at X and 1 and all looking great to have a good day tomorrow.
Heck yeah. Can't wait for that. But we have to get through this final round of action before we do that. And I want to talk about this Mono White Tokens deck.
Yeah.
This was kind of like the hotness, Caretaker's talent, it going to, Carrot Cake, and then just making a whole bunch of little idiots, making it nice and big. And then it just kind of fell off the face of the earth.
Yeah, so the thing is Demir has a pretty good matchup against it. The Demir list that are playing Fairy Mastermind, the fact that when this card's just or this deck's just trying to draw a bunch of cards, kill all the creatures. When your opponent's also drawing a bunch of cards, it ends up not being as impactful. This deck is a red deck destroyer, though. That's what you would like to play against every round. But the one reason why I actually really like this deck for the metagame right now is all these Dimir decks are switching to the Hopeless Nightmare, Fear of Isolation, nowhere to run style decks, and all those cards seem terrible against mono white. So I think mono white actually is at a really great spot in the metagame because now it has a much better matchup against Fairy Mastermind-less Dimir decks, still smashes the red decks, which if you add all the red decks together, they're still the most played deck. Dimir was up top at 210 players by a little bit, but if you add all the red decks, it's like 18% or so. So it's still, that's the deck we're going to be playing against the most. So mono white actually looks a lot better. The one thing here with Scott's list, though, this is the deck that I have liked so far the most out of anybody's deck list. It's not necessarily because Scott is X and O, but I like the fact that Scott's not going ham on the Fear of Isolation, Hopeless Nightmare plan. You're still playing the good cards, Kaito and Enduring Curiosity, even though if you're shaving those a little bit. So I like having the top end of the power from this Dimir Enchantments deck, but still having the new spice with some of these elements like Fear of Isolation. So if I could look at the deck list and then play the event, I would have played Scott's deck. I really like it. I think it's really cool.
All right, well, let's see how this matchup shakes out. Both players undefeated, looking to leave the halls today as the 9-0 player, one of 3 or 2, as you mentioned. And, which deck comes out on top remains to be seen. Players are ready to rock and roll. Let's jump on down. Best of luck, friends. Here we go.
All right, going to be exciting last round of day number 1 here. And starting it off with the new hotness here, the Hopeless Nightmare. Wilt Leaf Liege? No, just kidding.
No, unfortunately
not this time around.
Not in this deck list here from Nathan Andres.
And the reason why I think that these Hopeless Nightmare cards are really bad against the mono white tokens deck is the deck draws so many cards. And let's say you have 2 cards in hand, but you already have an Enduring Curiosity and, the Caretaker's Talent already in play. You go down to like 1 Carrot Cake or whatever, and you play that, you redraw 2 more cards. You sacrifice it, you draw 2. So the just discard a card clause just is not that good against this deck.
Fountain Port on the board here for Nathan. Get Lost taking care of.
Just discarded it to
Just
Hopeless
discarded
Nightmare.
it, yes, sorry. So we have the Fear of Isolation on the board here, ready to turn sideways.
And is Kaito here? Nope.
Maybe?
Okay.
Nah, not this time around.
But that's another nice piece of technology where I think like the Esper Pixie list is cool, Pixie to pick up more stuff, but Kaito can also pick up stuff, and it's just a good card where Pixie alone, 1 mana, 1/1 flyer, doesn't even have lifelink. It's not even Healer's Hawk, so not great,
Here comes the Carrot Cake. Speaking of things that are not great, depending on who you talk to, I personally enjoy a good Carrot Cake, especially if it summons bunnies,
Yeah, absolutely.
They're so cute and fuzzy.
Yeah, and Carrot Cake, is Miss Landrop here from Nathan, so that is not good at all. And Carrot Cake got to be one of the less exciting cards that you're going to see at an 8-0 list, but it really does tie the room together. Being able to, make sure you hit a land drop, and then the fact that you can trigger the Caretaker's Talent as well as the Enduring Curiosity, both on your turn and your opponent's turn, really leads to just it being a nice card.
Yeah, it's sweet indeed. Caretaker's Talent, one of the powerful classes being introduced in Bloomborough. Again, such a sweet set. Basically, if there's anything cute in Standard, it's Bloomborough.
Exactly.
Now we're going to see land for turn here from Nathan. Finally finds land number 3.
Then if there's
Carrot Cake
anything,
doing a good scry.
Then if there's anything very scary, it's Duskmorn for sure, for sure.
Oh boy. Untap. Turn passes back now to Scott McNamara. things are going pretty well here for him. You know, finding a couple of the key enchantments that you hope to see here. Hopeless Nightmare, nowhere to run, and we have the Fear of Isolation. Just chipping away at the life total. Nathan Andress is already down to 12.
Yeah, and we've seen Scott already on coverage before, and just also really liked how he handles himself, how he plays. You can just tell by kind of his mannerisms that he's definitely a very skilled Magic player for sure. I've been really impressed by him.
Nice. In for another 2, down to 10 goes Nathan. So still no Kaito. Follow play here. Post-combat main. Are we going to do anything or just sit tight and pass the turn? Nope. Land for turn. And this town ain't big enough. Going to be returning a couple things to hand. And it's going to be both of his things.
Look at that value. Now you can play Hopeless Nightmare again. Discard a card. Fear of Isolation. Bounce it again. Next turn, discard another card. Like,
that's gross.
I think Scott heard me say, like, it's not a good card in this matchup. But when you cast it 15 times in the first 8 turns, I suppose it's not so bad.
Yeah. It's going to get value the longer the game goes on, that's for sure. I remember seeing this town in Big Enough kind of, getting on the radar. I think it's Team Sanctum of all. They found some convoluted thing with the Team Hero Otters.
Yep. That is definitely where that combination was started. But then everyone's like, okay, even if that Team Hero Otters deck, isn't as busted as maybe we thought. I do think it's very good, and it's my favorite deck to play. I'm not going to lie. It's super fun. But a lot of decks are taking that tech from the Team Sanctum of all because they really did it when it comes to Storm Chaser's talent, and this town ain't big enough. Really, really strong.
Yeah, those 2 cards together just absolutely nuts.
Yeah.
As we see Caretaker's talent ticking up and creating a copy of a token on the battlefield. Next turn, these Widow Wabbits are going to be pretty big indeed.
So far, Hopeless Nightmare has had Nathan discard 4 cards, but we are at the spot where I was kind of talking like, sure, Nathan's going to keep discarding cards, but he's going to draw 3 cards a turn. So it doesn't really matter that you're discarding a lot because Nathan has infinite cards with just the Fountain Port alone.
Yeah.
Every turn, make a creature, draw a card. So Scott will need a little bit more power to get through here, and it looks like he only has 1 card. So Scott in this matchup still does want to be finding what's really good against mono white in general, and that's the Kaitos, that's the Enduring Curiosities.
Yeah. Just get more value than your opponent can get with the lands. And here comes, talk about value, Beza, the Bounding Spring. Not going to get the creatures. We'll get the life, and we'll get the card, question mark?
Yeah, won't get the card, I don't think, because Scott has 1, but we'll get the treasure from the land. Beza's so good. Incredible card.
I do love how, like, all of the catch-up effects that we've seen the control players gravitate towards over the last few years. All just kind of smushed into one big old moose. Elk, whatever this thing is.
Pretty much. Timely reinforcement once this card got printed. It's just like, oh. I guess I'm done.
Well, we had a good run.
Exactly.
Oh, man.
Back in my day, we cast Rejuvenate. We gained 3 cards. Or gained 3 life, and we drew a card, and we liked it.
3 cards for 2 mana? That's a deal if I ever saw one. Oh, boy. So, Nathan Andress seemingly stabilizing here at this point. Has a Sunken Citadel down there, too, to make activating Fountain Port cheaper. Well, in inverted commas, cheaper.
Yeah.
So, things looking good here for the mono-white side of things.
Definitely. Stumbled a little bit early. Scott had the nice draw, where Hopeless Nightmare dealt 8. It made Nathan discard a bunch of cards. The Flyers are going to do some work, so, I mean, there's still pressure on for sure, but definitely if Nathan has a good draw here, it's still looking totally fine. A Sunfall next turn, for instance, would really do some serious work.
Yes. So down to 9 goes Nathan. Still not too stressed about it. These sirens, or I should say, yeah, that's a 3-turn clock.
Yeah.
If we have no life gain or no interaction at all here.
And there's definitely something that the Dimir decks lose with this kind of version is you don't have those counter spells. Even if you were only playing 2 of either the Phantom Interference or the Spell Stutter, those were still great against mono white where you had the ability to counter a timely Sunfall and just win. So there's still a cost in this matchup. But I do think this version that Scott brought to the table is better than like the Esper Pixie versions against this deck.
Yeah. I mean, there's some really good cards in white to warrant the splash for to warrant it being an Esper deck.
Yeah.
But, you know, at the same time, I got to say this Demir list looks to be pretty solid.
Yeah.
Maybe even more so than the Esper list.
Yeah, it looks awesome to me. You know, it looks like a measured approach to the new tech that's been popping up the last couple weeks. And now we see Overlord, another great card against these Flyers, also triggers the Caretakers, and we look at how many cards Nathan discarded and still has a full grip.
Yeah, man. Mono white, being able to draw cards, it's just like exactly what you want. You have the pressure with the creatures, you've got the life gain, you get the card draw in there too. Like, you're going to be sitting pretty.
Yeah, absolutely. So does get in 3 damage here. One of these bunnies is going to get in the way of the Reef. And animating the Reef to me just says, well, Scott does not have a good hand. Probably another land. And this will be a big turn for Nathan. If you can deal with these 3 power where the Flyers with Sunfall or Get Lost, something like that, you feel good. If not, Scott's still looking okay here.
I mean, another carrot cake even, just gain some life. Like, he's not too far off of, you know, just activating the 3rd section there of Caretaker's talents and just making these little tokens ginormous.
Yeah.
You know, make a couple fish of Fountain Port.
Yeah, that is the thing with playing this mono white tokens deck. I really do like the deck. Being able to just every turn, all you think about is how can I be the most mana efficient, number 1. Number 2, how can I draw the most amount of cards through my turn and your opponent's turn if you can have the life to spare. And then at some point you just look down and you're like, oh, I have 5 tokens. If I animate Caretaker's Talent, I can just win the game.
Ooh, Ossification hits the board now, following an Enduring Innocence. So that is going to take care of the Flyer, dealing the most damage. So bye-bye, Fear of Isolation. Now, Scott McNamara is in a bit of trouble.
Yep, absolutely. And you can tell Nathan is very fluent with this deck, not forgetting any triggers, very, very conscious of everything he can be doing. And now the clock is only 1 damage per turn.
6 turns, what could go wrong?
Yeah, right? A lot.
A lot, for sure, yeah. So Scott hopefully finding something a little more useful on the top of the library. Hopeless Nightmare, though, gonna cause the discard here for Nathan, as well as the life loss. Apologies for the brief break in our broadcast. We just want you to know that this is Magic Spotlight Foundations. We got a cool logo, all right?
It is a cool logo, I must say.
Yeah, I like
it. That transition between the scenes
look at that.
looks really, really nice. So nice, we're showing it to you twice.
Yeah, so we'll get back into the action shortly, friends, but let's just analyze, you know, the game as it stood.
Yeah, so the one thing that was really important here, we're going to get back into this game in no time, but the Hopeless Nightmare there was going to put him down to 4. You can attack down to 3, and then if you have a way to bounce the Hopeless Nightmare, which there is a plethora of them, down to 1 already. So, you know, that was a big card right now to be able to help kind of close the game out.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
So we will hopefully get back into the action to show you how that game concluded. You know, from what we saw, it looks like it was going one direction pretty swiftly. But as we join the players back in action here, Nathan's up to 5. So able to get some life Enduring Innocence there.
So what looks like happened here is you were at 8, down to 6, attack down to 5. Maybe Enduring Curiosity connected, but with the Carrot Cake here, you can gain 3 life from this. This is what we like to call just about garbage time here, as I think Nathan is gaining full control here.
Do tell, elucidate, what is garbage time?
It means the game is over, but you're playing for such high stakes that you keep playing.
Oh boy. You know, I guess that the clock is a thing. 37 minutes.
That's true. That's true. But honestly, really well navigated by both players. I thought they both played very excellent.
Yeah.
Scott just, you know, drew a little bit too many lands at the end, didn't find Kaito, didn't find Enduring Curiosity, and Nathan just barely eked it out here. And, okay, but...
Ooh. Well, I mean, there's still things that could happen here. Hang on.
I mean, if there's a Hopeless Nightmare...
Yeah, this could be GG. There's no mana available either for him to sacrifice the food.
Only,
there's the treasure.
Only 1 treasure, but that's not enough.
Oh, no, yeah, that's Ossification. Never mind, that's not a land.
If he finds Hopeless Nightmare...
Da-dun.
It looks like that was a Surveil 2.
Yeah. Ooh. Okay. Can we find it? Oh, that would be such a sick rip off the top here for Scott. if he's
Yeah,
able to do that.
you would feel like you just got away with one for sure.
I don't know how many we have seen cost and hit the bin.
I think there were quite a few, and
Yeah.
and Scott's been sacrificing them
Yeah.
to try to find stuff, so doesn't even have one in play, so you don't have the ability to find Fear of Isolation or anything like that. So, or this town ain't big enough.
Yeah.
Oh,
Okay.
looks like it's Storm
Oh,
Chaser's
yeah.
Talon.
All right, Storm Chaser's Talent. So we get a little 1/1 down.
And then you get to pay 4 to bring something back, but really what it says is there's a turn of reprieve
Yeah.
where, we're going to go back to Nathan's turn. Nathan's going to be able to attack down Kaito,
Yep.
sack the Carrot Cake, go up to 5 at the very minimum.
So, no big threatening attacker, no evasive creature in the sky anymore here for Scott. So Nathan just has to, put foot and get 15 life points down to 0.
Yeah, and these Caretaker's Talents can boost up these rabbits all the way to 5/5s as well. So, I mean, at the flip
Jeez,
side, Nathan can just be close to winning the game, too.
Yeah. Yeah, so, buff up the team. These are what, 3/3s now?
Yeah. Or the more measured approach here would just be send the 3 rabbits at Kaito.
No measure, smork.
Yeah, yeah.
What's Beza? She's a 4/5?
Yeah.
Yeah, 4.
So it
It's
looks
10.
like
Okay, so that deals with Kaito. Did any of those creatures go face?
I think they were all Kaito, but you didn't really need
Why?
to. Well, you did have to kill Kaito,
Oh, okay, kill him. Yeah, I
yeah.
suppose.
but I still would have left Biza back. But
What's the worst a Widow Otter can do? Corey. It's just a 1/1.
yeah, it's just a harmless little otter.
Yeah.
I mean, the real thing that it can do is like if I don't remember what Scott bounced, but if it was this town ain't big enough, that was huge. That probably locked it up. But if it was this town ain't big enough, you can bounce one of the blockers, bring your own thing back, maybe play Storm Chaser's Talent, level it again, and this town ain't big enough again, attack for 3. Still wouldn't have been enough, but you can do a lot of cool stuff with that
you definitely
combination.
can.
Yeah.
So no Otter on the board. Lay down arms, taking care of that. Gaining some life here for Scott. But yeah, we're gonna see some pretty hefty chonkers flying in here soon for Nathan with that second copy of Caretaker's Talent.
Yep, absolutely. And the Overlord comes off impending now as well. So looks to be like the window is missed here for Scott to be able to come back here. But this has been a great game.
Yeah, that's been sweet. Played out very much like a mid-range matchup.
Definitely.
Now, Spyglass Siren, take a look-see. Flood Pits Drowner off the top. That's going in the bin. Not what Scott needs right now. Man, he's just digging. What is he hoping to hit here?
Yeah, I don't think there's anything anymore.
Sideboard cards, that's
yeah,
what.
yeah.
Gix's command would be sweet, but not even because that Caretaker Silence is buffing all the little guys.
Yeah.
They're just little guys. No, they're not.
they're swole.
They're
They
swole,
are
yeah.
swole.
They lift. Turn boss is back.
And being very measured about it, just attacking with those 2.
Mm-hmm. Big ol' swing here, and ding ding, we draw some cards off of the talent, courtesy of the insects being made. So now we got card advantage, we've got board presence. We almost have life total advantage here now, too, for the mono white deck. So.
The only thing Nathan doesn't have going for him is he doesn't draw a card off the Enduring Innocence because the creatures are too big.
Yeah.
Shucks.
Ah, gosh darn it. Dang nabbit, that would have been
Yeah.
sweet. But you know what? Plenty of other ways to draw cards.
And
And
here,
we're just going to chuck in a replacement Beza, because why not?
yep, here's a Biza to just gain 4 to make sure there's absolutely no corner case that anything can happen. And looks like Nathan's going to be one game
Jeez.
away from being XO with a deck that I very much would not have expected to
No,
be
me
XO.
neither.
Like, I think it is a good deck, and if you play against Gruul and red decks all day, maybe we can take a look at what Nathan played against if there was a lot of red decks. But, if you play against that, of course it looks amazing. But if you play against a lot of Dimir, you feel a little bit more sad.
Let's see. He played Selesnya Tokens, Dimir Midrange, Mono Red, Dimir Midrange, Azorius Oculus,
Wow, only
Golgari
2 red
midrange,
decks.
Dimir Fairies, Baros Aggro, and Dimir Enchantments.
Wow, played against a little bit of everything, and
Yeah.
it just kind of been dominating. Impressive
Sweet.
stuff.
Yeah, so certainly no like clean run through favorite matchups at all here. So
Yep.
Nathan certainly knows the in and outs of this deck, as we can see through his play. Enduring Curiosity makes an appearance, finally, for Scott.
Far too late.
Yeah.
That is for sure.
Cats are never on time, though. Unless it's dinner time, then you will know you have forgotten to feed them.
100%.
Mhm.
Absolutely. So makes a treasure at end step. That does trigger the caretaker's talents as well. Value, value, value.
Cards, cards, give me cards. He's going to have to discard at this rate if he's not careful.
Yep. And now you come down to the spot where Scott does have to start looking over at the clock, be like, okay, I'm going to lose.
Yep.
Do you want to try to maybe play for a draw, or do you want to play for the fact that I need to finish 2 games?
Yeah.
Because, you know, there are definitely times with this mono white deck that your matches
Yeah.
end up 1-0-1, and that's still a win. You know, like, it's a very slow deck. The games go extremely long with this style of deck by design.
Very, very
Yep.
grindy matchups. As we see, lay down arms, take care of the Enduring Curiosity. That's enough for Scott McNamara to scoop him on up, and we head to sideboard. So, what does Scott need to do against this mono-white deck?
All right, so Scott to prepare for the mono white deck. I love the negates. Bringing those in against Sunfall seems awesome. I would say the Get Out seems okay. That's not really that good. Tishana's Tidebinder, I think, is pretty strong. As well as the Preachers, I think, are pretty solid as well, and the one of Shieldred. The cards I really do want to get out, I don't know if it's for sure correct. Of course, the Cutdowns, the Nowhere to Run, and I would consider taking out some of the Hopeless Nightmare, but you really need to get the Nowhere to Run and Cutdowns out immediately, and that's already 6 cards, so that's going to be the first move. And then I think if Scott needs to bring in any more cards, he'll cut some Hopeless Nightmares as they don't look amazing. Definitely not terrible. And then from the flip side here,
There's a Lyra.
Lyra, I'm learning now that that's still in Standard.
What? No,
And,
it just came back.
Okay, that makes more
Foundations,
sense.
Yes.
That makes more sense. So don't think we'll see it here, but I think Exercise seems pretty decent. Split Up seems okay.
Authority? Not really.
No, definitely not Authority for this one. Maybe Dusk Animus. Remember, this is closed deck list,
Yep.
and we're going to see Scott take out a lot of removal.
Yep.
So a card like Dusk Animus could be extremely powerful, something you can play early. Same with Lyra. Really depends how much removal Nathan thinks Scott's going to leave in.
So plenty to think about. Taking a look here at Nathan's full deck list. In case you just want to play a bunch of planes and some utility lands in Standard, this is a pretty strong deck to pick up at the moment, I'd say.
Yeah, you know how I was saying Esper Pixie looks really fun to play because it takes so many game actions?
Yeah.
Well, this deck does too, but it also draws a bunch of cards. So I lied. I want to play this deck now.
Well, to be fair, the Dimir Enchantments deck can draw cards. We just didn't really
True.
find any of
True, but you can draw more cards
True.
with this mono white tokens
it. Yeah,
deck. So
the kitty cat just didn't show
Count
up
me
in
in.
time.
absolutely. But like I said, this mono white deck really started off in the metagame as a deck to answer all the red decks. Red was just dominating, and then mono white came to kind of put that deck in check. Then Dimir came to put the mono white deck in check, and that was our first rock, paper, scissors
Yeah.
metagame. Since then, everything's divulged into a lot more different things, and it hasn't become a rock, paper,
Yeah.
scissors metagame at all.
Now it's rock, paper, scissors, lizard, Spock, right?
Yeah, there might even be more. There might be at least 7 different configurations of rock, paper, scissors.
Both players having a great time there in the feature match area. This is a long day, and kudos to both of these players for being 8-0.
Yeah.
The mental strain and drain that this kind of tournament takes on you, and there's still a whole other day to play, Corey.
Yeah, absolutely. At this point, you want to just end the night. I've been in a situation like this a few times in previous tournaments, being 8-0, and you make a mistake
Yeah.
going into it and maybe you punt a game or something. dinner just doesn't taste as good.
No.
You know, you want to make sure you play good Magic throughout the day. You can, no matter what, even if you're 8-1, hold your head high and get ready to play the next day.
It's kind of like a big reset, huh?
Yeah, 100%.
Going into day 2. So, you know, leave yesterday behind you because, you know, that's where it sits. As both players are going to take a look at their opening hands. See if we like what we spy. What can we see in the hand there of Nathan? So an Enduring Curiosity, or Enduring Innocence, excuse me. Couple lands. Is it good enough to keep? Yep, we're good. Let's rock and roll. Spyglass Siren hits the board, starting things off here for Scott. Hopefully he can do a clean 1, 2, 3, 4, go.
Exactly.
This time around.
1, 2, 3 as in Kaito.
Yeah.
That's what you really want against this. There are some answers from the mono white deck, as in Get Lost, but if you don't have Get Lost right away, it is very, very tricky to deal with it. We do see 4 Get Lost as well as 1 ossification in this list, so you have 5 ways to deal with it. But outside of that, Lay Down Arms does nothing. You're not able to kill it. No Sunfalls, Split Up, any of that kind of stuff. So that is what Scott is going to be looking for, is one of those 3 Kaitos.
Cake. Carrot Cake hits the board, makes a rabbit, 2 Spyglass Sirens, and 2 map tokens on the opposing side of the board.
Carrot Cake sounds pretty good right now.
Yeah, I'm actually kind of hungry. So.
Me too. There it is.
Hey! Woo! That's what you want to see if you are a Dimir player. So Kaito getting in there. Gonna deal some damage, and we're gonna surveil.
Huge.
Nice.
Huge here. Now, no matter what, Kaito will replace itself. So if there is the Get Lost, number one, Nathan wastes in air quote, you know, uses up his entire turn dealing with the Kaito. Kaito already drew a card, plus you get 2 maps, which in this matchup, the thing I love to do from the Dimir side, you know, I played a ton of this when I was prepping to play in the Arena Champs. I just let these maps sit around, and then all of a sudden you're like, okay, my opponent's at 9. I have 6 maps. You're just like, all right, sack, +1/+1, leave it on top. Sack, you know, and just create a huge attack out of nowhere. You can win the game pretty easily through that.
Not too much mass artifact removal.
Yeah, no, not really. Temporary Lockdown's the only one, but we don't see any in this list. But that is the only tough case. But outside, it's not that good against Dimir anyways, because you have 3s, you have 4s, and all that stuff.
Carrot Cake, or excuse me, Get Lost taking care of, Carrot Cake took care of Kaito. He's eating, he's busy. As we now see the ideal curve. This is perfect for Scott, being able to get the kitty cat down on turn 4 after Kaito. So cards are coming at a good rate here. Yeah,
I'm just getting word, actually. If Nathan wins this game after Scott had this pretty much nut draw, we're just giving him the trophy.
Are we?
It's just over.
Oh,
yeah,
cool.
game
All right,
over.
sweet.
So I don't make the rules.
We get to go home tomorrow?
Exactly. Yep,
Whee!
absolutely. It's over.
Okay, all right. Now, so Overlord of the Mistmoors hits the board, puts 2 more critters down. So if we are on Nathan's side of things, we're hoping to find one of the card draw engines. You know, we want an Innocence, or we want a Caretaker's Talent, because we're making a bunch of creatures, but we're not really getting that much value off of them.
I mean, to be honest, as it stands right now, the board is at parity. And Nathan might be a little far ahead. Just because you can put one of these 2-1 flyers in front of this, you can double block the other Curiosity, and like the battlefield is neutralized, and Scott had the best possible draw.
Yeah, that's just, I mean, it's kind of a kick in the shins. But, you know, Enduring Curiosity does come back, so if we do have another creature, there is the Soulstone Sanctuary, if there's absolutely nothing else going on in Scott's hand.
Yep. Still has that going on, and Nathan can be running out of steam a little bit here, but there's always cake. There's always cake to get you a little bit of value.
Yum, 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 yum. I am getting hungry, actually. So, come on, you two, let's hurry things up here a bit as we get another. That could be an enormous Spyglass Siren if we had to go the route that you were mentioning. You know, just explore a bunch onto one creature and then swinging for lethal.
What's your favorite kind of cake is the real question.
Cheesecake.
Cheesecake? Okay. I don't know if this counts, but Dairy Queen's ice cream cake. That's my favorite.
If it has cake in the name, it counts.
Okay,
ooh,
perfect.
Hey, look. We got it. We got an Enduring Innocence. Hey, I see your cat and raise you a sheep. Oh, boo. As Tashana's Tidebinder is going to say, no more counters coming off you.
Well, it stays at 3, but then it
Yeah?
will still come down later. But this was just saying I want to get this 3/2 into
Sure.
play.
Yeah.
As there was no other triggered abilities.
Just get some extra cards off
Yeah.
of it or kill a thing, something along those lines.
So decides to sacrifice it now, so there's not another Tishana's Tidebinder.
Nice.
Get to draw the card, gain 3 life, scry as well.
Yep. It's all pretty groovy here for Nathan Andress. Scott McNamara with 2 creatures on the board, one of them being evasive, which is a free card in essence. First things first, though. Are we going to get something out of the way? Sure are.
Okay.
Go for the Throat, takes care of the Curiosity. It'll remain, though, as it's not exiled, but both creatures now get to swing in and chump block here just to prevent the card draw off of the Tidebinder.
Not really worried about the 3 damage, but just making sure to stop the extra card is totally worth it. And now we'll see what Nathan can do here. Nathan is definitely behind now. And honestly, as he should be with how good Scott's draw is, I just keep being impressed with how Nathan is keeping up with this incredibly powerful draw while being on the draw.
Yeah, that's just nuts.
Yeah.
Oh boy. Alrighty. So we're exploring. What do you find? Land to hand. Gonna use the rest of the mana?
Definitely playing that land drop for sure. See if there is a follow-up to sack some more maps.
Yep. Down to 3 maps. Targeting. Oh, another land. Ugh, that's a flood.
Yeah, I mean, being able to sacrifice these maps and get those lands out of there still looks pretty strong, but big turn for Nathan if he wants any hopes of 2-0ing this match.
Something cool. Something cool. Could make it fishy. Ooh, carrot cake.
And then there's a Biza.
Biza. So, that gets us a creature. It doesn't get us a land.
Doesn't get the treasure.
Or excuse me,
Maybe gets
treasure.
the card.
Maybe gets a card. The fish, though, that's pretty sweet. Curiosity trigger.
Yep. Gets a lot of value. And then during Innocence you can stack it so you put it behind Biza so you get to draw a card and then draw another card even if, you know, you're passing the amount of cards of your opponent as well. It works favorably there.
Nice. Did he draw 2 cards off of Innocence?
It should have drawn 2, one off Biza, one off Innocence.
Right.
Yeah,
okay.
yeah.
Just making sure it wasn't 2 off the Innocence there.
Yeah.
Because this ability only triggers once per turn.
That would not be good. Man, that card would be so
It would be busted.
if that triggers multiple times. Ooh, Elspeth Smite here.
Hi-ya!
Very strong play here, preventing not only 1 damage, which is trivial, but preventing Scott from drawing a card.
Yep.
And now, all of a sudden, advantage bar to Nathan.
Mm-hmm.
Truly impressive showing so far.
Back in my day, we had advantage bars. All the new players are just like, what's that?
Exactly.
Someone should open an establishment called the Advantage Bar.
Ooh, that's good.
Yeah, come on.
Want to start a business?
I mean, sure, if you're paying for it.
Ah, seems like too much work.
Alrighty, what are we doing here, Mr. McNamara? What you got? Okay. Fear of isolation. Gonna just bounce. Hey, wait.
Bounce a map. Get it out of there.
What if you bounce the cat?
You could to
Yeah?
get the body back
Yeah.
for sure. Yep. But honestly, Enduring Curiosity is safer as an enchantment.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, it just doesn't die to lay down arms, sunfall, any of that kind of stuff. So like, I like having it as the enchantment up in the mono white matchup.
Okay. Another copy of good old Overlord of the Mist Moors and it's deja vu. Another copy of Tishana's Tidebinder. Gonna jump in here and prevent that from happening. So no 2/1 flyers.
Yeah, that's pretty strong. And this is why Tidebinder is so good in the matchups.
Yeah.
You just have so many things to do. But
Jeez.
how about another one?
What?
Why not? Draw another card.
I, for one, welcome our Overlords.
yeah.
Good grief. 3 of them.
Oh, man.
So those Tishana's Tidebinders, they've shut down the other 2?
They have, but it is just
It's
an
still
enchantment
just-
now, so
yeah.
it does not do anything
Okay.
like you would want it to.
All
Yeah.
right, so they do still keep ticking, and now this is just
Yeah.
like a doomsday clock going off here.
Yeah. 100%, and this game is looking as close to unwinnable for Scott as it possibly gets.
Yeah.
Even after this phenomenal start, like I would shrug after this game if I'm
Yeah.
Scott, be like, I did everything I could.
Yep.
I was on the play. You know, when he saw that opener and how he was curving, it's like, okay, so now I just got to figure out how to win on the draw. But
Yep.
you know, as it
Jeez.
stands, Nathan had an amazing draw, and you know, I'm just ready for our new carrot cake overlords here to take over standard again.
Oh man. Look at the art. Look at those two bunnies. They're rabid rabbits, I tell you.
Yeah. Do you think if Nathan wins this whole tournament, he's obligated to go get some carrot cake?
Yes.
I would think so.
Yep. Unless he's allergic, then in that case, no.
Okay. Yep.
So we're gonna see a couple of insects jump in the way of our fear of isolation.
Even if
goes off the
that's
board.
a quote-unquote unfavorable trade as
Yeah.
you're losing 2 creatures to 1, when you're playing this mono-white deck, you're just like, here's resources,
Yeah.
because you just keep drawing all the time. You never run out of gas.
And you know you're gonna have replacements pretty soon because one
Yeah.
of these overlords is about to become a body.
Gosh. Basically every turn here for the next couple turns.
Oh gosh, another land. Scott is just
Yeah.
yeah, shake of the head there. I agree with you, man. That's rough.
And the problem is, like, from Scott at this point, when you're in this matchup and your opponent's at 20 life, there's not a lot of catch-up mechanisms. Like,
Okay.
sure, you have the Storm Chaser's talent with this town ain't big enough as, like, you know, the ability to keep going long, but,
Yeah.
like, you're just too far behind and you don't play enough removal spells to deal with these overlords.
Yep.
You know, that's why the one thing that is really nice in Demir against Mono White, Fairy Mastermind. You
Mhm.
draw enough cards where you keep up with these Mono White decks, and without it, and you're playing Fear of Isolation instead, it's a
Yeah.
huge downgrade.
Yep. I mean, fear of isolation. I get it. It's cute. You know, it does the whole bouncy thingy, but
Yeah.
it doesn't feel like it's impactful enough. Doesn't
No.
feel like it's doing enough for you to help you win the game.
For what it's worth, I do think it is good. And I do think it's probably better than Fairy Mastermind, just specifically in this matchup and up against the Sultai Terror Beans matchups.
Yeah.
I would rather have Mastermind than the other stuff.
Yeah.
But every other matchup, Fear of Isolation seems awesome to me.
Another copy of Enduring Innocence hits the board, so more cards, more value. Nathan is just steamrolling his way
Yeah.
into an undefeated record here on day 1 of Magic Spotlight Foundations.
Yep. Looks like this one's all but over here. Just going to keep drawing a bunch of cards.
Yep.
The Enduring Innocence that's flipped. The other Endurance would trigger it. And then when you make another carrot or something, only one of them would trigger.
Yes.
So maybe he drew 2, or I didn't see exactly what happened that we're getting judge calls, but
We'll get the resolution here as soon as we can, just to see what the question was and what the resolution is. But yeah, the first Innocence would draw a card off of the new Innocence, and then only the second Innocence should trigger with a new token creature being
Yeah.
made.
So it looks like they have figured it out,
Yep.
and we'll continue the Mono White Token Domination show here. And now I think Nathan's just thinking, okay, is it time to start turning the corner, or do I just keep chilling? You know, I mean, Nathan can just say go,
Yeah,
end step, put in a fish or a treasure,
yep.
draw 2
all the
cards.
Yep.
Like,
You know, like having won game 1, there's no real pressure for him to win game 2 in time. You
yeah.
can just sit here and kill the clock. This deck can definitely do it.
There's also the flip side of that where Nathan loses game 1 and there's almost no way he's going to win the match.
Yep.
You know, so like there is good and bad when it comes to these
Yeah.
mono white decks. And there's always one of these really slow, grindy decks in standard where
Yep.
like sometimes you look at players that are inexperienced with the deck and playing fast. Keeping your opponent playing fast, that's another thing you have to do, you know. Sometimes you're not here to make friends and you got to
Yep.
hustle a player that's chatting too much or whatever.
Yep.
And you look at some of their records, they're like, all right, you were 3-3-3, you know, like that stuff really does happen. You have to make sure you play fast. You have to make
Yep.
sure your opponents play at a respectable pace as well.
And if they don't, call a judge.
You gotta, you
Yep,
know,
yep. You're not the bad guy. You just want to get your games of Magic done.
yeah.
Draws are not fun.
Unless they call a judge on me, then not cool. No, I'm just kidding. I always play very fast,
Uh-huh.
very quick.
We should just go and borrow 2 decks after this. Let's just
You want to
switch it.
battle? Okay,
Yeah, sure.
okay.
Why
I'm
not?
in. I'm in.
All right. We made a fish. We're going to draw some cards. And, yep, this is just garbage time. Here we go.
Yep, yep.
Corey's coin phrase here, as Lay Down Arms does take care of the critter on the other side of the board. Here comes an otter.
Yep, and you know, that's another one of the low-key best aspects of this deck is you get to play Swords to Plowshard in Standard.
cool.
You know, like Lay Down Arms is that good, but it's a real cost. Having to play only planes, like you can't play that many non-plane lands.
And there's 14 planes in the deck, and there's a bunch of utility lands. So,
Yeah.
you know, it still finds targets, though, because, like, no one's really doing the big go-over-the-top stuff, except for maybe, like, the Beanstalk decks playing the
Yeah.
Civic Terrors and, well, the Solarian Terrors and the Crabs, that sort of thing.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Like the Overlords are maybe hard to
Yeah,
exile with
sure.
that card or whatever, but there it is.
Yeah,
There's the
Dusk
Dusk Animus, which is really nice.
Huh.
Another one of the most unbeatable cards in Limited.
Yeah. Just have to remind myself what this guy does. Is it
Exactly.
plotted or is it on the board?
I'm not sure. I would assume you just play it. You already have the lands, but I guess you would get the counters.
Yeah,
so.
you want the counters if you have 5 untapped lands.
Yeah, probably plotted it. Make any game actions, Nathan. You're fine. It's
Yeah.
all good.
There we go. All
There,
right, so
it's plotted.
it's plotted. I was about to say it's on an adventure. It's essentially the same thing, but not really.
Yeah.
Oh, hey, Kaito's here. Hi, bud.
Yep.
Help! Help!
Need a lot of help from this Kaito.
What do you even do, though? You just, like, tap something down?
I mean, at this point, I take the Kaito out. I look on the back, make sure there's not more abilities I'm forgetting about. Realize there's not, and, you know, like, just give it up, I guess. But
Oh, boy. This is so rough for Scott, man.
yeah.
That's some bad beats, but, you know, like, we had to look at what Nathan's trip was here. So let's have a look at Scott, see what he's been facing.
Well,
in
you're checking
Environment.
out that next turn during Nathan's turn on just surface value. You're going to put 2 6/6 Overlords into play, a 4/5 Baneslayer at home. Plus, you're going to have the ability to draw 3 cards off activating one of the fountain parts. That's the very minimal that Nathan's
boy.
going to do without any cards in hand.
That's nuts. So, to get to 8-0, Scott has gone through Golgari Reanimator, Selesnya Midrange, Boros Convoke, Selesnya Tokens, Mono White Tokens, Esper Pixie, Gruul Aggro, Dimir Midrange, and now Mono White Tokens. So, again, a pretty wide spread of stuff.
Yeah. And I mean, that's just standard right now. It is unbelievable. It's such a
Jeez.
good format right now. You know, having 14% as our highest deck, anytime we see that as broadcasters, we basically jump up and down because
Yeah,
we're going to
it's like,
see
woohoo!
we're going to see a lot of deck diversity. And, you know, it's just as important for us as it is for the players. You know, you feel like you had a lot better time when you don't play like 5 mirrors and like
Yeah.
2 times against Gruul or whatever. You know, it's just, it makes for a great tournament experience for
Yeah.
everyone.
Yeah, 100% agree. Yeah, back when Teferi was the only thing being played from the control side of things, like, oh, I feel for all of the aggro players that had to go through that.
Can we still be friends if I was if I tell you I was one of the Teferi
Oh,
gamers?
I know you were. I know you were. I know you like Yorion as well, so.
Yes. Excellent.
That was so sinister.
It
Jeez.
was. I was just thinking all the good times with Yorion, you know?
Ugh. Stupid bird serpent. Hopeless Nightmare hits the board. Nathan.
Yeah.
Well, that's going to do it. Nathan Andres picking up the victory in a pretty long slog there. You got to
Yeah.
feel bad for Scott, though. I mean, that was just the perfect opener. And
Yeah.
Nathan just basically said, nope, nope,
Yep.
nope, nope.
I
nope,
think Scott played Hopeless
Nope.
Nightmare there at the end to get himself out of his Hopeless Nightmare against that. Like, truly impressive stuff. I mean, like we were saying, just give him the trophy after winning against that draw. Like, that was the nut draw that Scott could have produced. Not saying anything from our mono white gamer as well.
No,
like,
no.
that was a nut draw as well to be able to stay in it, but just really showed the power of beating what I consider a bad matchup. Maybe
Yeah.
with the Hopeless Nightmare, you know, Fear of Isolation stuff, it gets a little better for the mono white deck, which I just think makes it pretty well positioned right now. But either way, that deck being on the play with Kaito into Enduring Curiosity, and you still lose with your opponent at 22 life. Like, what
That's
more could you do
nuts.
from Scott's seat? It was truly impressive.
Shake your head and you
Shake
know,
the hand, you know? Like
fist bumps all around. I guess we'll see
Yeah.
you tomorrow and hope to avoid each other, you know, essentially.
Exactly.
Oh boy, friends. Well, I do believe that is going to do it for coverage here. It is the end of our day number 1, round 9. So anyone who has made 18 points today,
Yep.
they're going to be back tomorrow and still in it with a shot to make that top 8 and to make the Pro Tour.
Yeah.
If you make the top 8.
Absolutely. Coverage will be back again tomorrow at the same time, 9 a.m. Eastern time for anyone who wants to tune in. We're going to be playing 6 rounds. Then we're going to be cutting to the top 8. And remember, I already am just losing it over round 15 when these players are playing a win-in for the Pro Tour.
That's
you know,
so cool,
like it is going to be some high stress, you know, top level competitive magic. And it's just, it's what it's all about, y'all. I'm really excited for it.
Thank you, everyone, for tuning in. We appreciate your faces. Come back tomorrow. We'll see you for some more Super Red Showdown Standard action. I was thinking of something. Spotlight Series.
You nailed it.
I did. It's been a long day. We'll see you tomorrow.
Let's go get some carrot cake.
Yeah.